not like we look at it on a regular basis.
Started. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Today is Tuesday, March 22nd, 26th. We are starting the Chelmsford Conservation Commission meeting, and I'd like to thank everybody for coming and remind you that the meeting is being recorded and is being televised, and so we'll start with asking if there are any questions or comments or issues that anyone would like to bring to the attention of the commission that is not on our agenda. Please raise your hand. Come on up to the thing. I don't see anybody moving, so I think we'll move on to our first item on our agenda. So we are getting ready to kick off a new release of the Chelmsford Open Space and Recreation Plan. This is a part of our town, I don't know what you call it, documentation and plans that we do along with master plan and other parts of the way the town works. And this is a planning document that is to be used to help us with acquiring property, managing recreation programs, putting together feedback from people in the town on what we want to do going forward in the state. In the town, and it also is very helpful for state grants, for getting state grants. It's nice to have it's in fact required to have an up-to-date open space and recreation plan. So we are at the point in our calendar to start that purpose. We have a committee that's forming to do that work, and we will be doing that work with NEMCOG, which is a local regional government organization. And so what we want to do here is just do a quick confirmation of the people who have either been volunteered or volunteered to the committee. I'm very happy to say that we have 8 names. So from this Conservation Commission, Peter Spahn and I are going to be on the commission, on this committee. We voted that quite a few weeks ago. And at least for now, Pat Wojcik is here somewhere, and she's going to be representing the Select Board. And Paul McDougall, again, at least for now, is representing the Planning Board. And then we have 4 other names that volunteered based on our posting of looking for people to be interested. So we have Max Jordan, Dave Sperry, Brian Strip, and Jerry Schmidt. So I'm really glad to hear that we have people interested in working on this plan. We think it's about a year or so. I can't say for sure, but I know some of you have worked on it in the past. I think that's about the time frame. This is an existing plan that we're going to be updating, so we're not starting from scratch, but it is a major update as opposed to a minor update. I think there's some distinction there. I'm not entirely sure. Just so you know, we do have commitment from Christine Clancy from DPW to also be participating with us, and from David Kuntz, our agent, to participate with us. So we have a lot of support and a lot of interest, and I'm very pleased to say that I think we're ready to go forward. I'm hoping that the members of the committee, I'm going to ask for a motion to accept the names that I read off as members of this committee, but I'm hoping that we can kick off our first meeting with NEMCOG. I'm hoping we can do it on April 16th at 6:30. Do I see nods that works from most of you at 6:30 here, somewhere here in Town Hall? I'm seeing nods, so I think that's what we're gonna do. I'm seeing thumbs up, so that's great. I'm open to, if anybody in that group would like to say anything, I'm open to that, but I'm not looking for that at all. Okay, so I would, any further comment or discussion about this? I think it's an important part of our town charter, but I'm excited to move forward on this.
Yeah, if I could just say, welcome everybody, and I look forward to working with you all. Just 2 super quick comments. If you've looked at the old open space and rec plan, you'll find a lot of cool things that are identified as action items that the town might take. And a lot of those action items are big effort that are hard to put your head around, so I look forward to everybody's thoughts once we get into that. And then the other thing is, the whole process, as I understand it, starts out with a lot of stakeholder surveys and engagement to truly understand what the community wants. And I find that particularly attractive, to make sure whatever comes out of this thing kind of covers people's interests. So, thanks, Carl.
Thanks.
Carl, I make a motion that we approve those list of the 8 members, and also a big thank you to everyone that volunteered as well.
Okay, motion from Chris, second from John. Any discussion? No further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Aye. The motion passes. So you guys are all in. Thank you very much. Appreciate you coming out here. And again, I look forward to meeting with you in a couple of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks. I think it's 3 weeks from now, maybe, from tonight. And you'll be hearing more from us in the meantime on kind of what to expect. And we'll try to figure out the work. I should add, I do know of a couple of names of people that were interested in helping in the background, so not necessarily being in the meetings, but hey, if we've got work, we can add them in. So if you know of anyone else that wants to just kind of in the background do some grunt work, we're happy to have those names. So again, thank you very much for coming out and appreciate your commitment. Okay, next on the agenda.
So the next agenda item has been rescheduled to April 9th. Town council cannot make it tonight.
Okay, so this is 5961 Carlisle Road?
Yes.
Okay, so this is the eroding slope. Is there anything that we need to do in the meantime?
No.
Okay. So,
Has been any discussion with the parties?
Between the parties, no. I've had a number of email conversations with town council, so
Okay,
I think you'll
all
be
right.
prepared
Sorry,
to
Yep, no, that's good.
advise the commission.
This is not a hearing, it's just a discussion item.
Right.
Okay. All right, so we don't need any motion, it's just delayed until the next session. Okay, thank you. And now, report from our liaison from the planning board, Mr. Chris LaValle.
Good evening. Tomorrow's agenda is going to be an extremely packed agenda for us and a really long night. We're going to be starting with the MBTA zoning. It's probably going to be our final public hearing before we start presenting to the Select Board, Finance Committee, and then Town Meeting. Hopefully we'll finish it up tomorrow. Then we're also going to be talking about 191 Chelmsford Street. Focus for that is going to be the traffic peer review. 93 Brick Kiln, we're going to be looking at the revised plans with the snow storage moved, the soil testing, and I think we're getting pretty close to a vote, either this meeting or next meeting, potentially. 10 Hildreth is on the agenda. We're going to be talking again about traffic issues, revised plans, and stormwater. And then 270 Billerica has been continued, so we're not talking about that in our meeting. And then we're going to be ending the meeting with accessory dwelling unit discussion. So we'll be talking about that probably, my guess is around midnight. So,
Good luck.
any questions?
I don't think so.
Have you been hearing anything about the MBTA, other towns are not accepting it? Or
So
doing-
the only town that has passed its deadline and not accepted it is that one town.
Stoughton, is that what down
Milton.
there?
Milton. Yeah.
Milton, that's what it is, yeah.
All of the other towns are either in process or at different stages, but none of them that have reached the deadline have not accepted it.
So it's not taking any legs, it's just that one community that's.
There are a lot of groups opposing it in various towns and communities, but none of them have reached the deadline. So even if it gets voted down at town meeting, there are still opportunities to revive it and adjust it and get another vote in before the deadline.
All right, thanks.
So we won't know until the end of next year, or end of this year, sorry. December of this year is the next deadline.
Thanks.
Yep. All right, thanks.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate the update. Okay, regulatory hearings. First one here is for a request for determination of applicability at the Hitchin Post condominiums at 14 Prescott Drive. Jeffrey Brem from Meisner Brem Corporation is representing the applicant, and I believe we have a notice.
Yes, Carl, we do have a legal notice. Pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, Mass General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Chelmsford Wetlands Bylaw, Chapter 187, the Chelmsford Conservation Commission will conduct a public hearing here in room 204 at the town offices on Tuesday, March 26, 2024, at 7 p.m. to consider the request for determination of applicability filed by Hitching Post Condominiums on behalf of property owner Butler Management for proposed work within 100-foot buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetlands at 14 Prescott Drive, further identified as Assessors Map 26/Block 93, Lot 34. The project entails resurfacing of walkways, construction of a retaining wall, and replacement of 6 existing light posts. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chris. So who is here representing the applicant?
That would be me, Mr. Chairman. Jeffrey Brem here representing the applicant.
Hello, Jeff. Can you present your project?
Sure, certainly, and the reason why I'm not there with you is I'm defending you all because I got sick the last couple of days and I don't want to get all you people sick.
We appreciate
I decided to do this by Zoom.
We
So thank you
appreciate
for
it.
having the Zoom meeting. I know you have a busy agenda, so I'll be as quick as I can. This is an RDA for a project. Hitch and Post condominiums was built by Robert M. Hicks, got 40 or 50, between 45 and 50 years ago. It's, these condominium projects is 71 at the end of Prescott Drive. To the south, south of this line here is Route 3, so it's adjacent to Route 3, Prescott Drive, and to the north is the Water Department land. The condos are all built, and this project is just to do some resurfacing, and some of the work happens to fall within 100 feet of the wetland. So the wetland line was done by Leah Basbanes. So I'm going to follow with my hand. Off to the left is a little wetland. It goes behind onto the Water Department's land, comes back on the right side as planned to the east, and then comes down here. And this wetland is pretty extensive to the east. So no work is being proposed for these sections, but at the far end, we want to repave this walkway, and we're going to talk about this walkway in a minute. And these are 3-foot walks to the units, and the standard back then must have been 3 feet, but it is 4 feet minimum now. So they want to dig these out, re-gravel them, and put it down to 4 feet. That's pretty much it on this plan. And then there's a light pole that's currently on the Water Department's land. They want to take that light pole off and bring it onto their property, and then put a couple more lights in this. This is a tall pole, 20 foot, and they want to put a couple of small 10-foot poles within the easement. This is being replaced, this one's being replaced, and this is a new one. Essentially, it's moving from here to there. Now, there's also, I forgot to mention it, David and I went out to the site yesterday, and he did say something about a retaining wall, and I said, no, there is none, but I forgot there is. So David, right here at the very far corner, there's a falling down retaining wall made of landscape timbers. It's about a foot and a half tall, and they're just gonna replace that with the same location that's there now. Take out the rotting landscape timbers and put in some a block retaining wall. Now, when we were out there, David and I noticed a couple things that weren't on the plan. They are now on this plan in green. We noticed a riprap area where my hand is now, and there's a photograph of it down on the bottom. It looked like it was brand new because the stones were brand new. I was told today that, and I sent a supplemental report, that this was actually here right from the beginning when Hicks built the project, and recently they just repaired it and spruced it up and brought in some new stones, but they put them on top of where the old stones were, so that's why it looks brand new. And it's pretty evident because they use kind of like white rocks. And then we also noticed, David and I, that along this edge of the current wide walkway here, there's some erosion happening. And I think I sent that in as a picture. Let me try to get that. Yeah, here it is. Are you seeing that? Sometimes when I switch from one to another, Do you see a photograph right now, everybody?
No, we're seeing
No.
we're seeing a map, the plot.
Yeah, okay, I have to do it this way, sorry. I had a feeling. Okay, now. All right, so today, David asked me to write all this down, so I wrote this down in a narrative, so you have evidence of this swale here, and then this area here has some erosion, so I have a photograph of it right here. You can see that this is eroding. And what we want to do is, as part of this RDA, is get permission to fill that in with loam, seed, and get this whole area, which is barely, you can see the dirt exposed. It's just been there for a long time. It needs to be rough, smoothed up, raked, and seeded with some shade seed. It's very shady back here. So we'd like to have permission to do that and stabilize this area once and for all. You can see right over here, this is just dirt. It should be grass. It should be stabilized, but it's exposed dirt right now. So that's the project. And I told them that I wanted to do this, even though it's a small amount of work within the buffer zone. The right way to do it is to get your permission. So that's why we're here.
Appreciate that. So let's see if we have any questions. David, do you want to add anything before we go around to the commission?
I had just one more question, Jeff, that I thought of after I met with you yesterday. So who's going to be doing this work? Is the association or property owner going to be hiring a contractor, or is it going to be the management company doing the work? Do you know?
Yeah, they're definitely hiring a contractor. I put in a bid package. This all gets to be part, and this will all be part of a bid package that they're going to put out to bid, and they're going for landscape contractors. What you don't see, some of the other part of the project is an irrigation project over here near the pool, and there's a lighting project. They're replacing all these lights. So it's a pretty sizable project altogether.
Okay. That's all I have.
Any other things from your visit or?
No, nothing. It's pretty simple, straightforward. I think it can be a negative determination with standard conditions.
Okay, Chris?
So then there's no waivers requested then from our bylaw at all?
No.
No
Nothing?
waivers requested. None.
Good, very good. Nope, I'm good.
I have
Mr.
nothing.
Gibbs, nothing?
Nothing.
Bill?
No, I went out there and took a look. I agree with everything that you said, so I'm fine.
Okay, Peter?
No questions.
Good.
No questions.
All right, well, okay. Okay, I'll take a motion.
Public?
Oh, that's a good, yeah, thank you, Chris. Any public comment? Anyone who'd like to speak on this? Going once, going twice? I guess not.
Mr. Chairman, I now make a motion that we close this public hearing.
Motion from Chris to close the hearing,
Second.
second from Bill. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion is approved. I'll take another motion.
Carl, I move that we approve this request with a -3 determination,
Standard order of conditions.
with the standard conditions, yes.
Okay. Motion from Chris,
Second.
second from Bill. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Mr. Brem, good luck. Thank you very much for your presentation. I hope you feel better.
Thank you all. And by the way, some of you that are on the Open Space Committee, you may see my name because I do believe I was on the Open Space Committee 20 years ago. So,
Oh, so we can go to you for backstory, huh?
yeah, you can definitely check in with me. But good luck in your work, and thank you all for doing what you do.
Thank you. Okay, appreciate it. Good night. Okay, thank you very much. Next one on our agenda here, we have notice of intent. So this is NK Holdings, LP 191 Chelmsford Street, and we are looking at Mr. Casey Ferreira. Hello, Casey.
How is everyone tonight? For the record, Casey Ferrer with Howard Stein Hudson. Since last time I saw you, we've gotten back the traffic peer review, but that's planning related, so we'll be back at planning tomorrow. I know we continued this to tonight, kind of in the hopes that we could wrap up planning board coming up. I know the last time we spoke, Peter and I discussed a little bit about the O&M and the long-term pollution prevention plan. We did get those comments in the middle of last week. I have not prepared a response. I haven't had a chance to prepare a response to that yet, but we can discuss a little bit today if that's what you guys would like to do.
Okay, I know we have some questions about the way the chemicals are stored in the building. Is there anything you can share about how that's?
Yeah, sure.
And if there was some kind of a spill, how it would be cleaned up?
Right. So with the chemicals within the building, they're all going to be stored within a material storage closet that's in the back of the building, part of kind of that office space. So the front tunnel is where all the cars will move through. The back kind of expansion off
Do you know
that.
which sheet that would be on, Casey?
I don't think the architecturals are in there, but if you open up just the layout, I can show you kind of the areas on the building. So go 2 more sheets. Down, 1 more. There you go. So the entrance tunnel is here. Everything in the back, kind of where it's expanded and a little bit longer, that's kind of the offices / material storage area. So this whole strip down is all the mechanicals for it, and then also material storage. All material storage will have to be as recommended by the manufacturer of those materials. I can't recommend any kind of material or purpose of material or storage requirements. I'm not the manufacturer of the materials, but the owner and operator of the facility is going to be required to maintain all storage in compliance with those manufacturers. And spill-wise, I spoke with the applicant about spill procedure this morning. He said he doesn't have one written up. Typically what happens is any kind of deliveries, they have their own kind of procedures for if something were to happen coming in and out of the trucks. They have procedures on how to bring the materials back and forth through the building. They can't, try and take 15 cases at once in case they're gonna drop them and spill them. So they have their own procedures as the delivery companies. He himself, he said he would work to write up something for his employees so that if there was a spill, there's a procedure that they can follow. But again, as I'm just the civil engineer, I can't recommend how they're gonna deal with that in the future. What I can say is if there's some kind of hazardous spill on the site, as far as stormwater structures, all of these catch basins are gonna be fitted with hoods. So any floatables aren't gonna be able to get through to the stormwater system. They're all gonna be trapped within that catch basin, at which time the applicant or the owner and operator of the facility will have to have that catch basin pumped and cleaned out.
Okay. So I'm looking for questions from the commission. If, John, do you have questions you want to ask, bring up?
A lot of our questions were answered the first hearing. Where the water was going, how much water is being used, and everything. I was all set with it back then.
Okay.
I didn't have
That's
any
fine.
real specifics.
Okay.
They've got an extensive planning. I know they're taking down a lot of trees, but they got an extensive planning. It's not gonna be a bad-looking facility, so,
Okay.
I'm good.
Okay. Peter?
Yeah, just the O&M stuff we discussed.
Yep. And so you're still looking to review that?
Yeah, the request was to upgrade the O&M plan and the long-term pollution prevention plan. I think we wrote a note
Yeah.
to you, Casey, and the
Yep.
applicant.
So we want
And
to see that.
I kind of want to address a little bit that, there's certainly stuff in there, changing some language and stuff that we're certainly fine with. Some of it, like inspections by the design engineer, we're not going to be doing any inspections. The design engineers, once we certify that it's been built in compliance, the applicant and owner will hire a maintenance company and an inspection company to come and do those. If there's a problem, they will come back and contact us. So that's why we give the recommendations in the operation maintenance plan. If there's standing water, if there's this, then you contact us, but I don't want to put in the O&M that I will be inspecting it because I
Understood.
will not be doing that.
Yeah, I think the recommendation was to have the inspections done
Yep.
under the direction of a professional, my preference would be professional engineer, doesn't have to be you guys, but somebody that knows what they're doing, not just, someone that works at the car wash.
Someone from a professional maintenance company will be the one doing it. I don't know if they're going to have a professional engineer on staff, so I don't want to put in there that it's required to be by or overseen by a professional engineer. I don't think that would be a typical staff to have at a maintenance company, but that's just my opinion. But certainly, and also in the planning decisions lately, with the DPW letters, the DPW engineering department requires all of those operation and maintenance reports yearly. So due dates are going to be kind of when it gets built, and then we'll work with the DPW to kind of establish a routine for their inspections and their maintenance, and the engineering department will receive all of those annual reports as well.
Yeah, so I mean, Carl, I mean, my view is simple. We went through the O&M plan and made some recommendations that are now under review by the applicant. So we'd like to see what they think and take it from there.
Okay. Anybody else? Bill, you have anything?
You all set with the sewer, with the water that's going, I guess you,
The sewer tie-in?
Stuart, some of the water's going to the sewer, right?
For anything,
Is
any
that all been-
wastewater from the interior of the facility is going through the sewer, yes, that's the
So
plan.
has that been all
Yep,
worked
we've
out?
already worked out with the DPW an allocated flow, and what the DPW has done has been, since that's just an estimation, what we're going to do is kind of like a 1-year trial period. If we go over, we're not going to be in trouble for that. What they'll do is they'll offer us the opportunity to purchase that additional sewer to allocate it to us, but they didn't want to pre-sell it to us if we weren't going to need it.
Do they have the capacity in Lowell, or?
Chelmsford does have
Or is it-
capacity with the way their new sewer restriction is written. I don't know exactly how much. I think the last time I spoke to them, which was a few weeks ago, they said they're somewhere in the order of 9,000 gallons per day they still had. And we're looking at, I think we agreed on 2,700 or so. But I'd have to look back in my notes to see. But
Okay, so what else do you have before the planning board on this?
I believe the only open items on planning board was they wanted me to look at how we could get more mature trees planted right away, which, according to our landscape architect, is not a preferential thing to do because it's much more difficult for a more mature tree to adapt to a new environment than a young tree. And then the traffic peer review just came in at the end of last week.
So nothing that has to do with our decisions?
Nope, stormwater and, well, you have the buffer zone kind of impact, but all stormwater as it relates to you has already been taken care of, and DPW signed off on that.
Okay, all right, that's it, Colin.
I don't have any other further questions on this. The only one I did have before was the buffer and how it's going to be handled. I think you addressed that to my satisfaction. I think Peter had a couple more questions about it. But whatever I know, it did it for me.
Thank you.
Okay.
Chris?
Sounds like we're really close to closing the hearing. I mean, we just have to wrap up the O&M plan.
Yep.
And we're there, we'll be ready to close the hearing.
I think so. I think that's we're still waiting to see that plan. I'd like to see that.
Is there a potential to condition the O&M plan as part of
I'm not
conditions of
inclined
the
to do that
project?
these days. Right now, I'd prefer that we wait and see that. I'm open to if anyone else on the commission, but that's been my feeling for a while.
It's probably the better practice, honestly, Carl, you know.
Yeah, I think the idea is that, instead of burying a lot of this stuff in the permit, put it in the O&M plan. And to my way of thinking, that's particularly important because one of my comments, as you recall, was to create a standalone O&M plan and a pollution prevention plan and keep it at the facility and train the workers once a year. They know what to do. So if we start separating some of the requirements from the written plan, putting them in the permit, then you're asking the operator to train people on both a written plan and a permit, and to me, it's just cleaner if it's one document. So that's my logic. I think that's what
Yeah.
Conservation Commissioner School tells you to do as best practice as well.
Okay. So
So Casey, could you redline the changes you're making to the O&M?
The O&M?
And long-term pollution prevention plan?
Yeah, I'd kind of like to get it back and forth before the next meeting so we don't come back and then there's, another.
I think we'd be amenable, yeah, if we can, David can, share it with us real quickly and we can look at it, yeah.
We just want to be able to quickly and easily see the revisions, see, how consistent they are with the requests.
Yep.
that have been
Yeah, and David, would it be, to expedite this thing, would it be appropriate for you and I to have a chat with Casey about some of the little details, like the ones he's mentioned already? Is that appropriate to try to iron that out, or does it have to
That's
all
up
be
to
in front of
Casey.
them?
I don't think it's inappropriate. It's up to Casey if he wants to
Be
do
more
that.
than happy to. Help us speed this along.
If you want to organize that, that sounds good.
Okay. Get this thing done.
Assuming that it's okay with the rest of the commission.
Just get it done.
Yeah, let's wrap it up now.
Yep, okay.
Yeah.
This is a open meeting. I would like to offer the opportunity for anybody from the town that would like to talk. I think we have one or two people that want to have a comment or two. Come up and please give us your name and address.
Hi, Laurie Myers, 7 Pine Hill Avenue, Chelmsford. With all due respect to my friend and neighbor here, trees are a concern for us in the Westlands neighborhood. We abut 495, very noisy. I'm sure some folks remember the sound barrier discussions in Chelmsford. So sound, mature trees to folks who abut the highway is a concern of ours. So just to address that. I do have a question about sewer, and that was in the DPW document that was sent to me at 6 o'clock, so thank you for that. I'm hearing 500 GPDs per day, 2,700, 1,000. So I know that sewer capacity is a concern here in town. The other thing is the water. I'm hearing 908,727 gallons annually. So I think, to all of us who are on a water ban, level 1 water ban constantly, I hope that that's addressed as well. I know you did bring up the chemical storage, another concern of ours. I hope that's addressed in some of these documents that are submitted to this board. I think the proximity to the aquifer, definitely a concern. We all know we have PFAS in the water. I did read the website that is currently up for this business, and it looks like they have some chemicals with some pretty long names that probably wouldn't do well in our water system. So other than that, I thank you for your time.
Casey, would you like to respond to any of that?
So again, with the trees, we're taking out somewhere in the order of 50 or so, but we're planting about 160. Those numbers are plus or minus based on memory, but as far as the PFAS goes, we have confirmation from the manufacturers that there's no PFAS in any of the chemicals that we're going to be using. As far as that getting in the water, none of that interior is getting into the stormwater system, so it's not going to be touching the aquifer at all. It's completely contained, going to the sewer system and going out to the little sewer plant. That's about all I got for response.
The sewer numbers,
The sewer numbers, so those, I can't remember off the top of my head the exact number, so what we did was we came in with a number that the applicant thought was going to be adequate. When the sewer department, or when DPW approached us, basically said, that's fine, but if you go over, there's going to be substantial fines for that. The applicant backed and said, well, I'd prefer to just purchase more than deal with fines in the future. So what we did was we went in and met with DPW and agreed on a gallons per day that they would be comfortable selling. He wanted to buy more just to be safe, but they weren't comfortable selling that much unless we proved that we needed it, which is why we came to that 1 year kind of look back agreement. As far as the water distribution, the water district has to agree to sell us that water, and if they didn't have that water, they wouldn't agree to sell it to us.
Can I ask you on the trees, out of the, how many did you say, 50 you think?
I
you're taking?
believe there was about 50 being removed. It's on the
yeah,
it's on the
are
demo
any
plan
of
there,
them-
David, if you can go up a sheet.
Are any of them inside our jurisdiction?
Yeah, so
I would
there's going to
think-
be quite a few within the 100-foot buffer zone. So this is the 100-foot buffer zone. So all these X's here are going to be trees that are removed. Nothing within the 50, nothing within the 25 for large trees being removed. And the majority of these trees being removed are simply because we have to regrade the site. The site slopes down so much as it is. We have to basically pick up that into the site to be able to put the building down. But so the total 58 trees being removed, and I believe the landscape plan shows an order of 160 or so being planted back in.
Okay. I think she'd like to
Sure,
say
absolutely.
another word.
I'm going to go back to the chemicals being stored. I wasn't discussing PFAS. I know Casey has spent a lot of time talking about PFAS. There are many other chemicals that will be stored in that facility that would be a problem if they entered our water system. So,
Understood.
But thank you
That's why we're going to look at their O&M plan.
but could we get a list of the chemicals, the products being used?
Is it already public, or?
It's on there. They have some tire cleaning and things on their website. Okay, awesome. Thanks. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else want to say anything? Okay.
Can I just ask Casey a question?
absolutely.
Casey, on some of the trees you're gonna put back in there, are they gonna be indigenous trees, or are they gonna be flower trees and stuff like that?
So there's significant natives that are being planted. If you go to the landscape plan, David, there's actually the schedule couldn't fit on here. It's on one of the detail sheets. But we had James Emanuel, who's a local landscape architect. What he does is he plants as many natives as he can, so everything's going to be kind of able to survive and thrive in this nature. I asked him to make it aesthetic, so there will be, because being a car wash in the area, we wanted it to look nice. But a lot of the trees that are going in will be native and indigenous to the area.
But they will be cultivars, probably. I have recently learned about a nursery in New Hampshire that I'm told sells native non-cultivars. So I'm looking into that. See if that's,
We'll look that for future.
yeah.
In the property that faces the highway, I don't see any new vegetation going in there.
The rear of the property?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not replanting. We mainly wanted to make it aesthetic for the area, so anybody driving by on that front side will see basically all the landscape and the aesthetic that we're trying to prepare. The back side is all an erosion control mix for the slope.
Oh, I think some of that would be important for sound barrier. That's my thought. I didn't realize there was nothing going in there. I understand what you're doing there. You're filling back there to cut down on the,
There is significant woods further back. There's not, we're only clearing out the, 40 feet from our pavement to the wetland, or not even to the wetland, to the buffer zones. So there's still a significant area of woods that goes from the back of our property, from the back of our disturbance. There's the wetland and all the vegetation existing in the wetland, goes all the way back to a riverfront area with all the existing vegetation that's in the riverfront area all the way up to the highway.
But is there any reason why more trees could not be planted to help address the sound barrier question? I mean, I think we all realize it doesn't have a big impact, but maybe some if you're living right there.
and someday it does grow in where it does more significant than it is
Yeah.
now.
Wind direction.
Yeah, right. Is that a possibility?
Yeah, I don't know. I'll have to work with the landscape architect to see what we could propose on the 2-to-1 slope back there, because I don't want to put a big tree that's just going to fall over in a windstorm and then end up damaging
No, I get
more
it.
than it helps.
I get it.
Maybe really what we do on a slope like that is really more bushes to keep the slope tight, and I don't know if that's going to help with your noise buffer. It's not going to be a big shade tree that's going to absorb vibration from the highway or anything.
Okay.
But we can ask.
Yeah, I think it'd be good, we heard the concern. It'd be nice to have you go back, research that and report back to us.
We try to encourage that in all redevelopment.
Yeah?
Trees, good, it's a
Yeah.
good thing.
Thanks,
Okay,
Dave.
so I think what I hear is we want to hold off until we can get a look at the updated plan. And so I'll take a motion to continue the hearing until our next meeting, which is
The 9th, April 9th.
April 9th.
I move, Mr. Chairman, that we continue this hearing until April 9th, that we're getting, as we said, getting close to closure, but we've got those two open issues. We're nailing down the O&M plan, and we're going to research the issue of that area in the 2-to-1 slope, whether we can get some more vegetation, bushes, trees, whatever. Yeah.
And the chemical thing, if I could just comment, I'm not sure exactly how that's regulated in town. It strikes me it's not necessarily a direct hit on our jurisdiction, although it does have a potential impact on water quality. But then you have the building department, and there's all kinds of chemical storage requirements in the building code.
Right.
And if there's enough of the chemical, there's also some state, hazardous material storage
Fire.
regulations.
Fire
And I don't think
regulations.
that's us.
No,
But
there's
there, but
fire
that is
regulations.
important.
So we have to be careful.
But it is an important question to keep the stuff out of the water.
Who would have concerns outside of our jurisdiction? Board of Health?
Board of Health, maybe
Fire.
the building department,
And fire, yeah.
Usually fire department.
fire.
Well, a spill would come under MCP, right?
Yeah.
Bill will come
Yes.
under the MCP, which we technically don't enforce, but it has a huge impact on our jurisdiction.
But
which
they,
is water.
but there must be a standard way of dealing with them, with
Yeah,
spills.
I mean, if there's a
Yeah.
spill of a regulated material, you know, there's an approach. But I'm thinking more in terms of, you want to have spill containment. As you put all this stuff in a building, you don't want a leaky drum to drain outside the building onto the pavement and get washed into the stormwater system. And we don't technically, I don't think, regulate that kind of stuff, although it does, like I say, affect our jurisdiction. So I'm not sure what the answer is. I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like we need to talk to other town departments and understand how that's handled.
Okay, maybe David, you can talk to a couple of your colleagues in
Yep,
town and
sure.
see what we can find out. Okay.
Yeah.
So we have a motion from Chris. I'll take a second.
Second.
Second from Peter, so the meeting, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The meeting is continued, the hearing is continued until April 9th.
April 9th.
Thank you.
to
Thank you.
close it?
Thank you, Cassie.
Well, we have to, oh, no, it was
No,
not.
no, we're
okay.
continuing.
Never mind.
It's all right. Never mind. Okay, next on our agenda, we have 93, notice of intent continued from February 27th, 93 Brick Kiln Road, and we have Mr. Brian is here. Hello, Brian.
Thank you.
Brian
So for the
Goodrow.
record, Brian Goodrow with Hancock Associates. I believe we have Rich Kirby with LEC on Zoom. I also have Jonathan Higgins with Higgins Environmental. So last time we were before you, we had continued the public hearing, and I think we were winding down or drilling down on kind of order language. And I think David was potentially drafting special conditions. Since that hearing, we had a little bit of movement on the water department kind of process, not the water department, excuse me, the Board of Health process, which is why we have John here this evening just to kind of describe what we've done out there for the hydrogeo study and any test results that are there. We also received a letter yesterday that I believe was disseminated either, I know it was sent to the planning board, it may or may not have made its way to the commission, that the Chelmsford Water Department has no further concerns with this project or with the hydrogeo or the Board of Health process. So what I'd like to do this evening is have John give that high-level overview, maybe a quick Q&A, and then hopefully get back on track to potentially close the public hearing. So with that, I'll turn it over to John.
Thank you and good evening. My name's John Higgins, for the record, with Higgins Environmental, Massachusetts licensed site professional. Hi, Peter. I've worked
Hello,
with Peter in
John.
the 1980s, so I get that out of the way.
But that was, what,
A while
30
ago.
years ago?
Yeah, that was a while ago. A little bit longer, maybe.
Say to myself, is that the same
Yeah,
John?
that is. Okay. So, I was engaged by D&D, just a project with the Board of Health and the Water District to do a hydrologic assessment, environmental assessment of the property at 93 Brick Kiln Road. And so they developed a scope of work for putting in monitoring wells, soil and groundwater sampling, survey, and determination of groundwater flow direction. And that was done by GeoHydrocycle out of Newton. And when they gathered their data, they recommended having an LSP engaged to review the data, which is where I became involved. And that's my report up there. It's pretty lengthy. But so what I did is I looked at the data, as LSPs do in Massachusetts. And the data was, again, developed with the Board of Health and the Water District. It include PFAS, and it also included VOCs of all organic compounds. And these are all at the drinking water standard level, as well as soil and groundwater sampling. And so the property itself, you'd have to skim through it a long way to find a figure, but it's kind of a half a circle. You know, it fronts on Brick Hill, UPS Road behind it, and then has a perimeter on the outside. And the monitoring wells were put in along the outer perimeter from the road, sort of to catch all the land areas. And they're actually positioned to be hydraulically down gradient of the house and where the septic system used to be, apparently. It included some soil samples near where some refuse was, those things that people might be concerned about. And I, in turn, looked at the data, determined the environmental setting, which is the topic of my report there. So, whether something's reportable or not, which is really what the initial determination is, it determines what's the environmental setting. Is it a drinking water area? Is it not? Are there residences on the property? That sort of thing. We did that, and then we carried that through with the data, and there are no reportable concentrations under the MCP for this property. And so there is no reportable release. There's just not a condition that requires further action. I, in turn, met with Brandon and Lisa from the Water District on Friday, and they issued a report after that meeting. We walked the property, not requiring any further action. So that's pretty much my talk.
Okay.
Yeah, Peter, we can talk again some other time, Peter. Actually, Tom Nuno recommended I give you a call on another matter, so. Okay.
So why don't I just jump right in? Peter, do you have any, you go down this hole better than the rest of us, I think.
Yeah, I mean, John wrote a pretty detailed analysis. I guess my view is you wrote a pretty detailed analysis. You're putting your LSP stamp on this somewhere along the way. And he's reviewed it with the Water District, which I believe we agree has the primary responsibility for keeping stuff out of our water. So, yeah, I have 1,000 questions, but they're not particularly relevant to, I think, this board. I think our decision is, are we accepting the results and taking it at face value? And so I'm not particularly inclined to advocate for a peer review or anything like that, like on some of these trickier ones.
Okay. Any other discussion from anyone else? Any other questions?
No. I read the report. I feel comfortable with
What you saw?
what I just heard and saw.
David, did you read through it? I know you've been busy, so.
Yeah, I skimmed it. I guess the only question I had was, so have you analyzed or evaluated the sampling results in the context of infiltration of stormwater? I mean, one thing I was curious about is where were the sampling locations located with respect to like the stormwater BMPs?
All right,
have a good feel for that.
So at the top level, we don't have a disposal site condition which would kind of warrant that higher level of assessment. Are we going to exacerbate a contaminated site for whatever means? So we haven't actually broached that level. I mean, this is essentially no different than you'd find on like any kind of background condition. So it's hard for me not to look at everything and consider everything as part of my job. But that isn't something that rose to the top of a concern, just because of the concentrations we have.
David, one way to look at this, and we probably don't want to spend a ton of time right now, but I think the whole industry is struggling with that very question of background levels. In other words, we're able to measure these trace amounts of chemicals, not just PFAS, but that we couldn't measure 20, 30 years ago, and lo and behold, we find them everywhere. But, if it doesn't exceed a standard, you don't get excited about it. So your question is relevant, but we don't really have the science and ability to drill down that final level of detail, not just on this side, I mean in general, with anything that we do. So I don't know if that helps. So that's kind of how I look at it. Yeah.
If I can add to that, so those criteria that I compare them to actually include the best knowledge for background. So what's analytically possible, which is amazing.
Right.
And then also what you would expect to find irrespective of a disposal site.
Right.
And those reportable concentrations incorporate that, because that's how they're fair about the analysis. They can't expect you to test for a set a detection limit that's lower than a quantitation limit at the laboratory, because no one could ever get there.
But I think, excuse me, David, I think your point's well taken. If I remember, I might have gotten this mixed up, but I think our DPW stormwater team recommended some additional infiltration test pits to meet the stormwater requirements. And of course, that's kind of where you're going. If you infiltrate a bunch of groundwater onto the site, is that going to cause some sort of release?
Well,
I think what the
in
data are
the
saying is,
locations where the contamination was found.
right.
yes.
And I think what the data so far is saying, there's not any real contamination.
Okay.
I mean, look, in fairness, I mean, what is it? Is it a 7-acre site? I mean, in fairness, it's possible there's a pile of junk somewhere that you miss, but I think that's inherent in this industry, this business. You don't sample every cubic meter of soil on a site. You get a licensed professional to use best judgment to figure out the dump, the former septic tank. So,
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Brian, do you have more that you need to add? I'm not trying to put you on the spot here.
I don't, so we just wanted to give that update for full clarity of what was going on. I think we've done that, and I guess the question is there any other concerns that the commission has preventing us from closing the hearing?
Well, I would like to continue it one more time because because this was going to be presented tonight, I wasn't prepared to, review the draft special conditions. So,
well, the other thing, the DPW stormwater team just wrote a memo recommending some additional test pits. Or have I got this mixed up with the other site?
I don't think it's on this project.
It's not.
Maybe I mixed these up. I tend to do that.
So I think that we could close it next week.
Okay.
Next
So,
meeting.
Carl, let's do that. Why don't we continue it to our next meeting of April 9th? And that'll give, our agent a chance to prepare the draft order of conditions for us to review. And we'll be in position then to close and perhaps even take a vote that night on the order of conditions to get this thing moving forward.
I think that sounds reasonable to
So
me.
I'll make a motion to that effect, that we come back hopefully one more time on the 9th. And
So,
we'll have some draft order conditions then.
Before we do that, we have some folks from the audience, I think, who would like to talk. Okay, so why don't we let Ruth talk for a few minutes? I think you sent a letter just this evening?
Yeah, but not on this one. I didn't get a chance to write it out.
Okay.
So
So would it make sense for us if you could, I know you're gonna have some
I'll
comments.
just say it quickly.
Okay.
I mean, partly I'm really confused. Joel's just bringing up the report, the LSP report, because I thought that I was seeing on that it did indicate an area on the northern part of the site that had a high level of PFAS for the groundwater. I don't remember the number, the location. Joel's trying to find that right now. I thought the levels were like 80 and 90, that there were 2 test dates in January.
January 3rd and January 9th.
January 3rd and 9th. I don't know if you saw that, Peter.
What page of the report is that on?
PDF page 18.
So my question is that I was assuming I was reading that correctly, that's being on the northern side. There's a large area of subsurface infiltration on the northern side in that vicinity, and so I was hoping that there would be groundwater mounting, not for the purpose of separation, but to see what would be done in that area as to, is it going to cause that to spread? Is it going to cause it to go off-site onto somebody else's property? And additionally, I would prefer to have some testing done in the beds, because it's going to, if there is something there, it's going to be sending it out. So that's what I was going to ask. I didn't anticipate having to write down the numbers. I just ran out of time at home. But, so that was my question, so I was really confused
Just
by
a
what I was
quick
hearing here.
Formality, did she state her name and address?
Oh, I'm sorry,
She-
Ruth Luna, 10 Carter
I-
Drive.
Okay, I just want to make sure, trying to be consistent here. Okay, yes, we we know who you are.
No, I understand. I should have said that.
Yeah.
So what were the dates again?
The test dates there were January 3rd and January 9th. Table 2? Yeah, I guess you can just say it. You have to give your name then, too.
So maybe Mr. Higgins could respond to that?
Do you have some Yeah, sure. Why don't we let the LSP?
Okay, so this is John Higgins again. So I think she's referring to MW1, which is the groundwater. And the groundwater samples were collected in the beginning of January. And
Bless you.
those are the locations that you can see the table there. I highlighted them in blue. So whenever there's a detection, it's in blue. And if there happened to be anything in excess of reportable concentration, it would be like bold yellow, like a highlighter, which there is none. And so it's less than the reportable concentrations for that area. That's the environmental setting part of the LSP review I do. It's all pertinent to the environmental setting, and it's less than that. So, and it's actually the similar question that David had already asked.
I don't recall the reportable concentration in Massachusetts for.
You're gonna put me on the
Loss
spot here?
6. Yeah, you don't either, right?
I've actually gotten to the point where I look it up almost every time because it can change. But it's on the table if David moves, if you can move to the, you'll see it on the side there. It's actually significantly higher than the results that we have. And I have my own little cheater table here, so I can tell you what that is. It's a big difference for non-drinking for that area.
But I think that's the challenge, is you can measure it. The question is it regulated? Is it reportable? I think maybe that's what we're talking about here is, does it reach the level of concern?
All right, so you ready? 40 million. It's 40,000,000.
This is
nanograms per liter.
So
nanograms.
So 40 parts per trillion.
Yeah, so it's
is the reportable?
40,000 parts per billion.
Right. Is that the reportable or what
That's
we
the
measure?
reportable concentration, and we had 90 to 80 nanograms per liter. So it's significantly less than that.
Yeah, it's really.
And to Peter's point too, this PFAS is everywhere, and they're persistent in the environment, and they're in like residential septic systems. It's everywhere, and so you're going to see some reflection on that too. But those nanogram numbers are always scary whenever you correlate it to an actual number. But
So I'm hearing then it's not above the reportable level then, is what I'm hearing then.
oh, sorry, I thought that came from behind me. No, it's
No,
not.
no,
It's
sorry.
not above the reportable
right, good,
concentration. It's
thanks.
well below it.
Good, thanks.
That's why I didn't follow through.
Okay.
I mean, Chris, one thing we could do, we could go full bore and get our own peer review if the commission has doubts. Another thing, I assume, let's just chat with our friends at the Water District and ask them if they took a super deep dive when they wrote their letter saying they didn't have any remaining concerns.
Well, did they have concerns when you spoke to the agent?
Well, they had concerns that the primary concern they had was whether it was going to be a municipal sewer or not. That's the primary concern they had, and they had read the report too. So maybe they had some concerns before they read the report, but it is on the municipal sewer system. Will be.
Do we have anything in writing from the Water District basically saying that they're okay?
No, I haven't received
I
anything.
mean, it'd be good to get something in writing from them, I think, just to confirm that they have no issues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, did you get that already? Okay, can you share that with David? Yeah. that'd be
Yeah,
great.
let's get that over to
Thank you,
David,
Brian.
and I think that'll help us feel more
Get
comfortable.
that, if we can get that, and then we can
Yeah.
look at the other stuff between now and then, then I think we're good to go.
So I'll make a motion then that we continue to April 9th.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, motion from Chris to continue to April 9th,
Second.
second from Mark. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. We will see you April 9th. I think we'll be very close at that point, hopefully.
Yeah.
Okay. We are now at notice of intent from March 12th. This is continued from March 12th, 10 Hildreth Street. So I see David and Brian are here representing the applicant. So we had some actions at the last meeting. We went out, a number of us went out to the site and visited it a week and a half ago on a nice bright, warm Saturday morning. We didn't get coffee, did we? Yeah.
No, no.
We didn't.
Well, one of us brought some coffee.
Okay.
Yeah, for ourselves, but-
That's good.
So, we were gonna get some new plans. You did stake the tree line, I appreciate that. And also there was, David was looking at the vernal pool. So those were the things that we had, opened from that. So do we have revised engineering plans? I'm forgetting, did we get those? We did. Okay. Did we get a chance to look at these? I have not myself.
Question, Carl.
Yeah, go ahead.
Part of our problem with water recharge area, resource area, is the septic systems. One of the applicants before you, their car wash, they're gonna use city sewage. And there is space left for other projects to be on city sewage. Why isn't it your best interest to do city sewage on there? You have one, the existing house. You require 4 more, I believe, what it was?
Correct. So there's an existing sewer connection for the house that's there right now. Now, DPW's mandate, policy, whatever it is, applies to commercial properties for expanding their sewer use, their sewer capacity, new commercial properties. They do not offer that for residential projects.
Okay.
So we do not have an opportunity to connect into sewer for this parcel. However, Lot 5 is reusing the existing sewer connection for the building, and considering that it's a duplex, DPW is allowing the other half of that duplex to connect into sewer because it is a 3-bedroom unit. 3-bedroom unit corresponds to 330 gallons per day, and the cap for residential expansion of an existing use is 500 gallons. So they're viewing that duplex unit as an expansion of the existing house, allowing the whole duplex to be connected to sewer.
Or I read that, yeah. Okay.
So, do you want to go through the updated plans?
Sure. So probably the grading sheet would be the best. That was on sheet 5. Now, this is a couple of meetings ago. We had come in with an exhibit plan showing the 5-lot revision, and this is a fully engineered version of that exhibit plan. So everything that we're going over today, we briefly touched on a couple of meetings ago. So, as originally proposed, the existing house was coming down a new private road going in with a 6-lot subdivision. We are in the RC zoning district, so each one of those lots will have a duplex on it. As a part of the planning board process, as a part of natural heritage, the plan has subsequently been revised down to 5 lots. So the elimination of Lot 4, which is the rearmost and southernmost lot, the lot that was closest to the river and the floodplain, that's the lot that we eliminated. So essentially what we tried to do is pull back our limit of work as much as possible from jurisdictional areas, from resource areas. We eliminated that one unit. And we also took another look at stormwater management on how we could reduce site impacts. And what we landed on is an underground system below the cul-de-sac. So previously we had an infiltration basin kind of adjacent to Lot 4. Well, we buried that under the roadway as a part of roadway development. So basically we're not expanding our limit of work beyond what we absolutely need to for roadway construction. So the new underground system, drainage from the road will be collected by catch basins as it was before. It'll go into a hydrodynamic separator for enhanced TSS treatment. And then the underground system are storm tech chambers, so they're the plastic arches. The inlet row of that underground system is also going to be configured in an isolator row, and that's StormTech ADS's kind of proprietary filter practice. So we're getting an even higher level of TSS treatment out of this before stormwater ultimately infiltrates, goes into the ground. As a part of this revision, we've also kind of eliminated the compensatory storage aspect of the process because we're no longer altering floodplain. Lots, the new lot designation, if you look at the subdivision, the top left lot on Hildreth Street, the northwest corner, they go clockwise, 1 through 5. So lot 4 is now the lot that what was lot 5, and lot 6 is now lot 5. So on lot 4, we did the same thing. We looked at kind of where the septic system was located, how the lot was being graded. Now that we don't have the infiltration basin there, we tried to tighten up that lot a little bit and keep development as close to the road as possible. So there were some minor tweaks on that one lot. In terms of roadway construction itself, we had previously proposed a private road that required a number of waivers from the planning board. So as a part of the process that we're going through right now, we've revised that road to be a fully conforming subdivision road. So now there's sidewalks on there. There's 26 feet of pavement, granite curbing everywhere. Not necessarily germane to the commission, but it does dovetail into the stormwater management design. So when we revised the road, we lost lot 4, but we expanded the roadway a little bit. Net we're probably about the same amount of impervious. But again, to go back to that limit of work and site disturbance that's required to construct this subdivision, it's significantly less in that back corner where those resource areas are. And that's generally the kind of summary of our changes to date.
Okay, questions from the commission on these changes? We'll have other topics that we'll get to, but let's focus on these changes. John, do you have anything you want to start? We can come back to you, if that's okay.
Yeah, did you determine about the water, the vernal pool?
Well, that's on for a little bit.
We'll get there.
Yeah,
Okay.
I got stormwater now.
All right. No, I have nothing.
Peter?
I have one question, and Brian, forgive me for not having this answered when you gave up your Saturday morning and showed us around the site. We have the residents' photographs of standing water, which I thought was presented to us as being on the current Lot 4, if I'm reading this correctly. Do I have that right? Do we know?
My recollection was that standing water was on a lot to the north of this property.
Okay.
Just to potentially shed a little bit of light on that, if you look at the existing site topography,
Yeah.
we're all sloped towards, the brook. So it'd be highly unlikely for that amount of standing water to be anywhere. And plus,
Right.
I don't think anyone saw evidence of that when we were out walking around.
Well, what's interesting is, that's probably enough conversation at the moment, because I think it's outside of the FEMA floodplain, which is our jurisdiction.
Yeah.
So I don't even think it's jurisdictional for us if there is some other flooding going on. And why don't we just bookmark that for later, because I know there's been a number of citizen observations or comments, concerns about flooding, which may or may not be our jurisdiction. So why don't we come back to that? And I don't have any other comments on the
Okay.
revision.
Bill, anything?
Not right now.
Mark?
No, I'm just, I don't understand where the vernal pool, if there is one existing there.
Okay.
And
The only question.
That's, yeah. Chris, do you have anything?
No, nothing on the revised plans.
Okay,
So I just have a question for Brian. So I just today, I saw a letter from DPW with review comments on this latest plan set. Didn't have a chance to really read it. Are there issues they raised that you need to respond to, or?
So we received the comment letter today as well. So I gave it that brief glance. And the one actionable item that we're going to be doing is conducting additional soil testing So we don't have test pits in the exact location of the underground system, so we're gonna go back out there and dig the appropriate amount. The rest of it appears to be easily addressed.
So, is the intention to have someone from DPW witness
Yes,
this? So could you please keep me in the loop on that?
absolutely.
Okay, anything else, David?
Not
Okay.
on that.
So I think it sounds like we're good on the plan for the moment. Might be wanting to look at it some more, but you look like you.
Yeah, I mean, there were some other issues floating around. I'm not sure where we are at them. The natural heritage letter, the turtle plan, I'm not sure.
Well, I think we'll get to that.
We're getting that, so
Go
are we
into the
gonna
order.
talk about this for a while longer, or is it?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
Yeah, there's.
I'll be quiet.
we're-
There's like 3 other items on the agenda.
Yeah,
that we
on
have to
this.
cover on this.
Yeah.
For Hilda, okay.
Yeah. So in terms of the, I mean, we talked about the site visit. We had a good visit, so I don't know if anybody wants to share any thoughts or whatever from our walk. We were all there, I think, yeah.
Yeah, everybody was there.
Yeah.
7 commissioners, 6 commissioners.
6, yeah. Any,
Well, yeah, thank you. That was very helpful.
yeah, okay. So it's always good to get out there and see. You look at the maps, the plans and everything, and till you get out there, it makes it a lot easier.
I mean,
So-
we were out there for over an hour. It was very good,
Yeah,
time well
yeah.
spent.
Yep. Okay, so then, next on our list here, there is a proposal from CEI for review of the historical vegetation removal. So, when we were there, we didn't see any evidence of recent tree removal, but we have heard from residents that it wasn't long ago that there were a significant number of trees removed. And so the proposal from CEI, David, do you want to go through what this proposal looks like?
Sure. So just a little bit of going back to the last meeting, the commission did indicate a desire to have this historical analysis done. Directed me to get a proposal from CEI. So CEI proposes to go back 10 years. Past reviewing aerial photographs, primarily aerial photographs of the site going back 10 years in an attempt to make a determination of, the extent of tree and shrub clearing, if any, in areas under the Conservation Commission's regulatory jurisdiction. And using the current wetland delineation plan as part of that review and analysis. So the CEI, the proposal is to conduct one site visit, and then issue a report and attend one commission meeting. So I did forward the draft proposal to Brian and Dave for their review. Did not hear a response to it. I have a response.
Yeah, so, if I may, we did look at the scope of the proposal, we got it, I think following the site walk. I think the site walk itself was very, very, informing, and we're of the opinion, based on, what we've seen in the field and our historic, that there was no tree clearing done on the site. So we do not feel that a peer review of aerial photography, is warranted in this case. If there are specific concerns that the commission has in this area, this is the area that we just vacated from the development. So essentially, this was that section of Lot 4 that we're no longer going to be developing. We know we're going to have some restoration plans for natural heritage, for some of the refuse piles that were out there. If there are specific items that the commission would want to see in those areas, I mean, we could entertain, amending and adding to the plan versus spending money on a peer review.
Okay, thoughts? I'm open to thoughts from the commission. Chris, do you have a?
I mean, I was out there. I saw some trees that appeared to have been really very old that had been cut many, many years ago. But I didn't see anything recent when I walked the site. And we were out there for over an hour. That's my thoughts.
Mark?
Well, between the original Google map that was, what, 10, 15 years old, is that one? Showing the vegetation. And the most recent one, there was a difference, but I don't know how you could delineate what was taken out and how much, but there was an obvious difference.
Well, it would be something similar to what CEI did for the Chelmsford lumber property. I think they actually, I thought, were able to come up with a pretty, accurate and precise, determination of trees that had been cut. I know there was a little bit of a disagreement between the figure they came up with and, what the applicant felt, but, there was a compromise that was reached at some point.
You guys comfortable for what's there now and what we saw?
Let's see what else. Bill?
I didn't see any new tree cutting when I was out there either. How much is the quote from CEI?
3,900.
3,900.
3,900. Not that it matters, I'm just curious. I'd like to hear what you propose in the areas where possibly the trees were cut. You're going to do some restoration work out there. Would that mitigate any trees that were cut?
Yeah, so
in the
the
process?
mitigation plan, I mean, Dave might be able to speak to it a little bit better. It's not going to include trees, so that would be something that the commission would specifically have to request. It's going to be removing of debris, trash, and then restoring ground cover back to the condition that we kind of saw that was out there.
I'd rather see the 3,900 put into trees or whatever to replant out there if there's, because I didn't see any sign of trees being cut very recently.
Well, yeah, but we're talking, okay, so this is endangered species habitat under our town bylaws and the state regs. We also believe it's probably important wildlife habitat just because it's along River Meadow Brook, which the state has designated as the one big important watershed habitat in town. I don't think we're talking about trees cut over the last year or two. I think we're talking about what has been done over the years. So let's not go down that road of I didn't see any trees cut.
Well, I
Because
didn't.
we're talking about like 10 years. But to your point, I'm sorry, but to your point, I like your point. Because the reason I was interested in the natural heritage plan is, hey, if the idea here is to restore turtle habitat,
Right, exactly.
I need the experts to tell me, do we want trees there or not?
Right.
And likewise, if there isn't a habitat reason to control the trees, you're right, it'd be a nice compromise if the applicant was willing to plant, a bunch of trees, to sort of make up the difference. But you don't want to do that if the turtle guys and gals say,
No, I get it.
don't do it.
Don't put trees
So,
there.
I'm kind of looking at it that
But
way.
is that going to come out of that report?
I don't know if it's that detailed.
No.
We haven't seen it. You
Well,
guys
It's more
probably
of
know.
whether trees were
Well,
cut or not, right?
It is.
His report. No,
Yeah,
his wouldn't help us with
Well,
that.
no, it is, it is included in the proposal that CEI will also assess those areas where
Oh.
within areas of priority habitat or estimated habitats of rare wildlife at the time of the alteration. So they will review that.
Okay,
Try to make a
I'm sorry, thank
determination
you.
about that.
And there's one other thought I had is, our bylaw does give us the authority, I think, to request a wildlife survey, and I know you've had some discussions with the applicant. But that's another reason, I think, to do something like this CEI study, because it's not a wildlife study, but what you just read, they are gonna look at answering this question, what's important for habitat purposes. So that might be another way, and rather than argue about doing a wildlife habitat at the applicant's cost, I'm interested in what natural heritage says, what CEI would recommend in terms of habitat, and then the commission can decide if that's enough to satisfy our obligation under the habitat part, wildlife part of our bylaw. Does that make sense?
Yes. I'll have something to add after John
Please,
comments.
thank you.
So, you're all set, Bill. Peter, you've said your piece for the moment, yeah. And John, anything to add?
I'm all set.
Yeah.
Can I opine on that?
So, yeah, actually, I was hoping you would.
Okay.
Come on.
Oh, thanks. So in consideration of historic take of trees, again, it is of my opinion that we are sort of going down the rabbit hole of looking for, we were out there on the sidewalk, we didn't see any evidence of tree clearing that I don't know what CEI would see different than what we observed. We could look at, excuse me, just let me finish my thought process. So in the matter of take of trees, let's consider that there was. What would you guys impose upon us? Replanting of trees is what I would surmise. We have restoration areas that we're proposing now with natural heritage outside of the limits of disturbance, as Brian had pointed out, and we pointed these out in the field during our site walk, where we have junk piles that we would remove. There's the progression. If you look at avoidance, minimization, and mitigation, I think we've avoided and minimized, and we're at the point of mitigation, right? If 10 trees were taken, what do? We plant 10 trees. We can do that. We have identified areas that are still close in proximity within habitat for, and again, on the vernal pool investigation, let's just consider it as, right, we'll treat it as such. That in the forested areas, we could reforest some of those areas by planting 20 trees. And we have the opportunity to do so without skipping a beat. So I just feel like to have a peer review is not necessary in terms of what the outcome will be and what we would propose to do to mitigate if there were a take of trees. We're happy to put trees in our restoration plan.
Okay, thank you. Peter, I sense you
No,
wanna-
I think we're zeroing in on the obvious point, you know, if trees are cut, they're gone. The question is, what is the best thing to do to that site?
Well, you need some guidance from, you're working with natural heritage now?
We are, yep.
So if you're gonna put trees in, you can't just put them willy-nilly. You
Yep,
need to
absolutely.
do what it's gonna, if you're gonna do the turtle habitat like we discussed,
Yep,
where
yep.
the debris is.
It's not, they're not conducive to one another. In terms of what we're doing for, did you send a copy of the, well, we just sent some markups to, what Natural Heritage is waiting on for us is they've sent us that the current development that we've proposed to them will not result in a take conditional upon some other items, which are essentially conditions as you would with an order of conditions that comes from Natural Heritage. They've conditioned that they wanted to see us do some additional nesting habitat restoration and enhancements, which is what we've just proposed to them. We've incorporated upwards of 5,000 square feet of additional degraded habitat that we're going to improve and make better for testing turtle nesting habitat. Now, the substrate that they need to nest in isn't really conducive to having mature trees in there, but there is outside of I was hoping we had the plan available where we could at least, no, sorry about that. But as we walked around the site where you saw the junk pile, there's also a void in that tree canopy, which is all invasive species over there. I think there was like Japanese knotweed and some other species. We could take that degraded area and remove invasive species and put in a tree planting plan of 25 trees throughout that surface area to take a degraded area that's currently absent of trees, that's not serving as suitable habitat, and enhance that area as mitigation for any perceived taken trees or sins of the past.
That makes a lot of,
Yeah.
that makes a lot of sense, and again, forgive us, because we haven't seen that natural heritage
Yep.
recommendation, so we're running in a vacuum, but that makes sense.
Yeah, one of the areas you pointed out that where the sidewalk was where the corral is. That would be the ideal spot where nesting would be.
Yep.
But that's gonna be changed when the roads and the grading's being done there. So it's not gonna exist after the development, is that correct?
No, that area of open sand is actually, where the corral is actually going to be preserved. That's one of the most important habitats that doesn't really need upgrade, or portions of it, yep. There is, yep, where the corral comes down. But
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Yep, but the areas of enhancement, when I did the wildlife habitat evaluations, different habitat types. The most, as I talked about during the walk, that sparse herbaceous habitat is the most ideal. The open sand habitats are second. And then dense herbaceous is a little bit degraded, and that's the areas where we focus the turtle nesting enhancements over, is dense herbaceous vegetation, where we would clear that out of invasive species, do some thinning of vegetation there, amend the soils to add sand content for turtle nesting, and then we have a planting plan of especially xeric soil type species that would fare well, like little blue stem, sweet fern, and then we have a native planting mix to go in there, a seeding mix. It's an herbaceous, sparse seeding mix that would go in there. But just beyond where that junk pile is the location where I was saying you have degraded opportunity for mitigation by invasive species and affording tree canopy. So I would actually propose the trees outside of the square footage of footprint that we've proposed for turtle nesting habitat, that we could carve out additional surface area there.
Yeah, and I think that's important because what I recommend we look at is if the applicant can engineer a good plan relative to habitat with natural heritage help, then I'm guessing that habitat value will be better than it is now, because now between everything you just described is
and all
degraded habitat.
the pile of trash, yeah.
So if we can make it better, and then the problem, of course, is always long-term maintenance and keeping it that way, but then you've sort of restored the riverbank, which is, I think, what we're trying to do.
Right.
That's a positive.
Assume the trees would cut, we're trying to make it better.
Yeah.
Instead of spending $3,900 for somebody to say the trees were cut, assume the trees were cut. Let's spend that money on
doing the mitigation.
Yeah. Work in that area.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think we're getting more bang for our buck.
Right, as long as we know the right thing to do, which I don't think, at least I don't.
No, and that's where, when we were discussing it before you brought up National Heritage, if you work with National Heritage under their guidance on how this should be done correctly, I don't want to just throw trees in it any which way.
Right.
For no reason, just to spend $3,900. That's not my point. My point is get the big bang for the buck. Spend that money on things that'll make the site better, rather than a study that's going to tell us, well, yeah, trees were cut, maybe this happened, or that, we don't know.
That's right, that's right.
So, I think on this item, I think I'm hearing the commission in agreement that we're not recommending that we proceed with the CEI proposal. Do we need to vote on that, or are we all nodding, or?
Do you think it's advantageous we do, Peter?
Well, can I jump in? I mean, I feel like we need to see what Natural Heritage has done first before making that decision.
Okay.
Because I don't know what they looked at. Did they look at the whole property,
Good
or did
point.
they just
Yep.
look at
Good
the
point.
little turtle mitigation area and say, never mind the rest of the, because we're talking about really the rest of the property.
That's right. They did look at the rest of the property. It was all-inclusive. Again, they're not subject to the same jurisdictional boundaries that the Wetlands Protection Act is.
Right.
They're subject to where Natural Heritage mapped habitat
Right.
is on the lot. So that is all-inclusive, with the exception of, what was the northern lot that is becoming part of the lot now? There were two lots that are being combined in the northern lot. Not the new subdivided lots, but the existing, there were two lots that were being combined, and there was one rectangular lot north of theirs. Yep. That wasn't mapped habitat, but we included it in the evaluation as well. anyway.
So we're gonna see this, is that right? We're going to natural heritage?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
So to provide further update, just in terms of where we stand with natural heritage, so they've requested this turtle habitat restoration enhancement plan, which we submitted as of today. We're happy to share copies with you. It's in draft format, and we expect comments from Natural Heritage. But the other conditions that Natural Heritage has noted that they will impose upon us to avoid a take of the species by these conditions would be to put the remainder of the property and have a restriction on it. It doesn't. They explained it doesn't necessarily need to be a conservation restriction, but by some other mechanism of restricting any expansion of development on the property in the future and maintaining those conserved areas in perpetuity as it would be recorded at the Registry of Deeds. They did impose on us to have the split rail fence around the limits of development with signage that states that this is conservation area beyond this point, that there are to be no mowing, dumping, snow storage, or alterations of any kind. We will include all of these restrictions and conditions with any operations and maintenance plan that would be carried by any homeowners association that is to be instituted upon sale of these homes. And then it would be subject to a turtle protection plan. And this is standard operating procedure for construction projects and map turtle habitat. What a turtle protection plan is that during the active season for turtles, if you're constructing any time from April 15th until October 15th, that you need to have a turtle exclusion barrier, which is effectively a silt fence that's put around the entire footprint of development during construction, such that turtles can't migrate into the limits of development. They'll hit the silt fence and it will deter them from entering that site. It requires monitoring by a qualified turtle biologist. It requires training of all operational staff that are on the construction team of what to do if they witness a turtle, how to report it, how to contact the turtle biologist monitor. This is pending. It's normally something that is submitted once you have a known start date and a better execution. So we know that that's forthcoming, but that will be another condition imposed.
And I assume Natural Heritage may have put some conditions for the riverbank, because that's where some of the missing trees are. If you looked over the edge, they're kind of shoved into the river. So I assume that would be part of the mitigation plan to make the bank turtle-friendly.
No, that's not part of our plan.
Power lines there.
It's actually close to not even being part of the property.
Right.
Yeah.
It's from.
No,
what I
that's,
think-
and
Well, that's a
that's
good
where
question.
Natural Heritage has noted that. If you look at where I would propose to put trees in is outside of the easement. The Natural Heritage had pointed out that anything that we propose within the transmission easement cannot be, we can't promise
Right,
that those things in perpetuity, because the utility, whether it be National Grid, that the next time they have to add a shield wire to their poles, they're out there matting around the poles, or they're at liberty to modify that area subject to their own operations and maintenance procedures. Vegetation maintenance and management to maintain clearance distance from the poles, so we can't do that. We had not proposed any work on the banks. In fact, fallen trees in the water body are that's overwintering habitat for wood turtles. I don't see an issue with that.
Yeah, actually, that part of the property that I looked at is not, it's not part of the property. The river is not part of the property.
Right.
That's my mistake.
No
Sorry.
worries.
Yep. Okay, all right. Okay, so it sounds like we want to be able to take a look at this natural heritage report and take a look at that. We'll do that by the next meeting.
Well, as soon as I get it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, right. And then the next item on our list here is the conservation agent report on the initial vernal pool survey.
Okay, so Joel Luna and I went out yesterday, and we found evidence of breeding of spotted salamanders. There's
Can you just reset us up where exactly on the site this was?
Yes.
Oh, you're getting there?
Getting to that.
Okay.
So we identified or yesterday we identified two areas. I think they would be distinct confined basin depressions. One of them I'm showing egg masses here from, and I will show you the egg masses in the photo were found down in this area right here. There's an obligate number of egg masses or a sufficient number of egg masses here for there to be a certifiable vernal pool in that area. Let me bring that up again. So again, that's this area down here. Another area just to the south of it, again, which I think is a separate, distinct depression. We found 3 salamander egg masses. Now 5 obligate egg masses are required for it to be certifiable. There's still time for additional egg masses to show up, or we could have missed them. There could be 5 or more out there. I certainly think doing another site visit, another survey is important within the next month. And then to the south of that pool, we found another distinct depression, which actually has quite deep water. I'm sure Joel will speak to this. My understanding is that he has heard wood frogs calling down there. We did not find any egg masses, but again, it's still conceivably early for wood frogs. So I think raises a couple of concerns. I think significant concerns. Let me go back to this plan. So first of all is that wooded upland buffers for vernal pools are extremely important, because that's where the critters are living outside of vernal pool season. I've been out on site enough at this point to have seen that in the area where we have the confirmed vernal pool, in other words, the requisite number of egg masses to make it certifiable, this is proposed lots 4 and 5. This is good upland habitat by and large for the critters. It's not heavily wooded, but it's sufficiently wooded to be able to provide the habitat. There's quite a bit of leaf litter out there. So it's clear to me, I think that's good upland habitat in the buffer zone for the salamanders. The other concern is that what role would this vernal pool or vernal pools possibly play in the life cycle of the wood turtles or the rare turtles out there? I mean, it's well known that Blanding's turtles and wood turtles utilize vernal pools as part of their annual life cycle. Are they using this vernal pool as a temporary migratory area from which then they're accessing the northern part of the site from that? Is development of the property going to interfere with that migration? So that's the second concern, potentially with vernal pools. Now the bylaw, the Chelmsford Wetlands bylaw, protects buffers to vernal pools. So and not so much under the WPA, unless it's rare species, but the bylaw definitely does protect buffer zone habitat of vernal pools. So just wanted to sort of set that stage. As far as moving forward, my recommendation would be that need to get at least this obligate vernal pool, the certifiable vernal pool, need to get that boundary delineated and mapped. That's the first step, and then after that, we need to know, we need to have a better understanding of just how the buffer zone to that vernal pool is going to be impacted. As far as the existing tree line is concerned, different plans are showing different configurations of that. Okay. Still haven't seen there's a proposed limit of work that's shown. I guess maybe we can assume that that's the final tree line, the post-development tree line. But I think we need to try and get some sort of, I think, a quantifiable measure of the impact to the buffer zone, in particular the loss of additional upland habitat for for the vernal pool species. The other thing I will point out is that the bylaw specifically allows for cumulative impacts. So it doesn't necessarily, so the commission has the authority to not only take into account what's currently being proposed, but also over the years, over the even off-site, even off of this property, how has the upland habitat, the buffer zone of the vernal pool been degraded? I mean, there's on the house lot which this property is located, the vernal pool is located. I mean, the lawn comes right up to the edge of it. So I think that the commission is allowed to take that into account.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, David.
I can.
David, could you respond?
I'd be happy to. So, once we looked at that feature and you said that you were going to look to see if it was vernal pool, we just presumed, let's call it a vernal pool and protect it as though it is. So, vernal pool species, they require, vernal pool obligate amphibians, at least the spotted salamanders. Those egg masses, I don't know if those were spotties or wood frog at this point.
No, those are spotted.
They're kind of small, and there's spotted salamander. Yeah, they could be. It's small.
I've seen enough spotted salamander egg masses and other spotted salamanders.
I did stay at a Holiday Inn last night. 23 years of advanced degrees in wildlife biology. They're a little early right now to tell. No, you're right. Those could be spotted salamanders, but what I notice about these, and wood frogs are obligate amphibians as well, so it doesn't take anything away from whether or not, let's say there's spotteds and wood frogs out there. Doesn't matter. My concern with these is that these ova, when they're deposited, they begin to expand after. This is early right now in the stage of laying and depositing egg masses. The fact that there's a cluster of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 egg masses all in one cluster, that's more behavioral of wood frog. Spotted salamanders tend to deposit in singular or maybe two at a time. These things will expand with water. They're hydrophytic. So if you look at a wood frog, which is actually quite small, and their egg mass is the size of a softball, the egg mass starts off very small, and hydrophytic, it develops. You'll start to see different features and texture in the ova and stuff like that. And the number of ova in there is just a lot for spotted salamander. But I am remiss. It could be spotted or woodies at this point. So I digress. Let's consider that it is a certified vernal pool or certifiable vernal pool, and that we'll treat it as such. So they require forested overwintering habitat, which is what is important to these species. As we're looking at lots 4 and 5, we're on the peripheral margins of what is forested habitat where we're proposing our limits of development. Anything beyond that is not suitable overwintering habitat for them. This is the area that I've mapped as degraded. There's no trees or forested cover beyond the limit of tree line that's out there now. As proposed, we looked at taking quantitatively, it was between 5 to 10 trees, which we talked about in the field, but there were, I think, 5 isolated trees, and then closer to the road, there was one bump out where there was a cluster of maybe 5 or 6 additional trees. Now, again, we can either mitigate for that by planting additional trees elsewhere around the perimeter of degraded areas. We're already putting 20 trees in. I'm just throwing numbers out there for perceived take of previous trees, but we could increase it and we can do wildlife habitat enhancements for that. As it pertains to habitat for turtles, it is suitable habitat for blandings, not so much wood turtles. Blanding turtles are known to use in overwinter. So when they're hibernating, it could be that there's blanding turtles overwintering in habitat like that. That forested wetland in general, not just the vernal pool itself, is suitable overwintering habitat for landing turtles. Wood turtles will hibernate underneath the actual stream corridor itself, underneath, as I implied, where you see trees falling or undercut banks is where wood turtles will use. So even if the blanding turtles are utilizing those vernal pool spots, the turtle nesting habitat still is where it is, and that there's no. Why would they be migrating north into degraded habitat when there's no suitable nesting habitat there? They would be nesting in the suitable habitat that we're aiming to protect. So the question is, what lies within your buffer zone in the area of proposed alteration? If we consider, yeah, it is important wildlife habitat. That's the wildlife habitat regulations actually state that they consider vernal pool habitat and rare and endangered species habitat triggers the important wildlife habitat, which is why I produced and submitted a wildlife habitat evaluation, which is mandated for that. That came in with the turtle evaluation that I had done for natural heritage. So it was more of an Appendix B detailed wildlife habitat evaluation. But I don't know how we would treat this any different if we did consider that this was vernal pool and consider that landing turtles may be overwintering there. We're not altering it, we're not disturbing it, we're on the peripheral margins of forested habitat, and what really is at consideration is take of 5 to 10 trees on that margin.
Yeah, and that just underscores why we originally started asking about trees that may have been removed in the past, which would have reduced that forested overwintering ground.
Even if it was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But-
I mean, my opinion, again, looking at the existing conditions, both on the site and off the site, is that the upland habitat for these vernal pool critters has really been squeezed over the years. That, in my opinion, it's important to protect as much of it that remains as possible. But I think that it's reasonable to try and quantify, the proposed impact, to some extent. So that's why, again, I'm recommending that the vernal pool boundary, in other words, the mean annual high water mark, be delineated and mapped.
Sure. It is, yeah. Will you go back to the plan for a moment, if you don't mind? Sorry, I'll just broadcast my voice. Where the buffer zones lie now, as they're broadcast on our plan, is projected from BVW, but the vernal pool is gonna be another, 50, 60 feet internal to this, and I'd expect the boundaries to be down here.
No,
think you guys-
no. We found the egg masses. You see the pointer?
Yep.
We found the egg masses up here.
It was in standing water, obviously.
Yep.
Right,
Yep.
I'll delineate the bottom of standing water. The point I'm trying to make is that this is more conservative of boundary, and that 100 feet from the vernal pool is gonna be shorter than this distance here.
Well,
But-
we need to see it mapped,
Right.
and then we might want to get it peer reviewed to come up with a final determination of that. And not only that, it has to be mapped off-site as well, because again, the commission is allowed to take into account cumulative impacts.
I understand that. But again, even if the vernal pool is there, let's say we go out and delineate it, it's off property, we need to get property owner authorization. There's no reason that with property authorization that we can't add that to our plan and pick up mean high water. But again, in terms of these cumulative impacts and the need for peer review, there's always the peer review. What is the peer review necessary for?
Well, if let's just say for the sake of discussion, because I think
Sure.
one of the things we're aiming for is what is the percent reduction in good upland habitat for these vernal pool critters that's presented by this development. You may come up. I think that's what I'd like to ask for.
Yeah.
You may come up with a figure, but that's going to depend on existing conditions, again, which I think need to be peer reviewed again because I'm seeing different tree lines on different versions of the plans. So that has to be resolved as well.
Would it help if we went and surveyed 10 trees and located them on the plans, the ones that are proposed for being taken? I think that's what's necessary.
Well, but it's more than that. I mean, we need it. As I said, there's leaf litter out there that is good habitat for salamanders and wood frogs. So we need to determine that extent.
All right. We did, yeah. We've done that in the habitat evaluation. My concern, just for my credentials that I have a master's degree in ecology, a bachelor's degree in wildlife and fisheries conservation, 23 years of qualifying experience. I'm a certified wildlife biologist, certified professional wetland scientist, certified ecological restoration practitioner, certified erosion sediment and stormwater practitioner. I'm the president of the New England chapter of the Wildlife Society. I am on the advisory council of the Wildlife Committee for the Association of Massachusetts Wetland Scientists, and I think I do high quality work. I've never had conservation commissions or regulatory agencies, and I'm happy to have this stuff reviewed. But I feel like every time there's a statement here, it's automatically this has to be peer reviewed. This has to be peer reviewed, even not knowing or having clear defined scope of what the peer review is, what it will entail, and what it is you hope to get out of these. So I'm just expressing my frustrations that every time we present something, it's automatically another peer review. And I'm trying to gather
We
what
hear
we're trying
that,
to
but
get
we are also, this is our prerogative
Sure.
to
Yeah,
ask for
it
that.
is, yeah. But I'm trying to understand
I'm not sure where I want to go yet, but,
Yeah, and if I could just add, I hear you. And it's not about trusting you.
Sure.
But what I've learned in the year and a half on this commission, right, is we're all volunteers.
Yeah.
And you all are part of a paid project team that has lots of time to look at the details. So for us, having that peer review advisor is very helpful because we're not experts like you are.
Sure.
So that's really why I think you hear the peer review, is these things are complicated, as you well know, and it's hard for a bunch of volunteers to figure this stuff out.
I get it. No, I understand it's at your
I know,
purview.
you've
I
been
just
doing
I
this
feel
a
like
long
I feel
time.
like it's very just this process. There's been several
understood.
Several scopes of peer review without nebulous.
Understood. Okay, so let me ask if, Chris, if you have anything else or anybody else on the commission wants to ask any more questions on
Well,
this
no, I mean, I
topic.
think that this is, an important issue, and I think we want to make sure that we have a clear delineation of the vernal pool and where it is, and I think we really want to understand. I think I want to understand as a commissioner, kind of, where that buffer zone is, and we got to balance, the various interests, wildlife habitat interests that we have here, but I know I want to understand it a lot better than I do now, so,
Yep.
That's where I'm at. I'm sure we've got some public input tonight, too, coming in, but,
And
yeah.
and I don't know if you want to take the time, but there are a couple of other issues, the Board of Health contamination studies, if I have my sites correct.
We had this,
Stormwater people had
we had a
some
letter,
comments.
yeah, we had a letter.
Yeah, so there's some other
important
things, I don't
letter
know if you
here.
want to do it
So let me
now.
ask on the vernal pool, if anyone else, if Mark or Bill or John, you want to say anything more?
No,
Yeah.
David brought up a lot of
Yeah.
good questions.
That's fine.
So is it clear what we're asking for?
Clear as mud.
So my understanding is you're looking for a delineation of the vernal pool that is off-site. We cannot guarantee that we can do that.
Understood.
So,
Understood.
if we cannot secure permission to go off-site and delineate this vernal pool, what would you like done? Because that is the more likely scenario.
I'll have to think about that.
So my suggestion would be utilize the boundary of the wetlands that we have, which is more conservative than the limits of what the vernal pool is going to be.
Well, but is the boundary of the BBW, was that delineated further than what's shown on the plans here?
We can look at GIS for the backside of it in area.
Okay.
You've already opined that there is no habitat because of the lawn on the adjacent lot, so we're already looking not on that southern side. We're going to be looking towards the east in the area where Lot 4 used to be.
But we need that documented on a plan.
Mhm.
Ideally, it'd be done through an actual field delineation. I'm certainly happy to help out in any way I can with regard to that. But I would also ask that you go to the bylaw, go to the bylaw and look at what that definition of the boundary of a vernal pool is. And maybe it will end up being, essentially the boundary of the BVW, at least in this area. I don't know. But as I say, this is, I mean, we found the egg mass is very close. My recollection was that the wetland flags were almost right there.
Okay.
You know, and then we also need to show the existing tree line.
Correct. Now, the question on the tree line is there an interest in count of what we're looking to clear to actually qualify that 5 to 10 ballpark tree number that's going to be removed as a part of lot 4 and 5? Or is it strictly a tree line? Like, I want to get as granular as the commission would like on this so we don't have to revisit.
Well, so you're suggesting going out and mapping, surveying and mapping actual trees?
Just the ones to be impacted.
It would be a limited tree inventory of trees to be taken by species and diameter across that.
I think that'd be reasonable.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd like to know.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's necessarily equivalent to the boundary of the upland vernal pool habitat. It's something.
So we've
again,
looked
have
at
to take
that
a closer look at
habitat.
That might have to be peer reviewed.
Understood? So we have the vernal pool limits and we have the tree line.
And again, the tree line around the entire perimeter, if you can get permission to do that.
Yep.
I would also ask Brian if you could let one of our town members join the discussion right now behind you. Because we're still talking vernal pool, and I know Joel wants to say something about vernal pool.
Yeah, Joel Luna, 10 Carter Drive. I'm here as a resident, not as an associate member of the planning board, because of the interest in vernal pools, as you well know. And that this is not the only site, by the way, that I've been, the only potential pool area or pool area that I've been looking at this spring. So it's not like I'm singling this application out. But it was obviously a matter of interest to us. And so I've been there on multiple occasions. I want to add that David's right, that one of the wetland markers, I don't know which one, but I do know one of the wetland markers is very close to the water. So we're not talking about 40, 50 feet away from the wetland line. We're talking very close to the wetland line. I agree with David also that it's not a very thick upland area looking up that way. And if you remember from the site walk, or if you don't, I would highly recommend you go back and look. It's not that dense, so I think any amount that you have there is definitely needed. I think also this commission has shown an interest in protecting the 100-foot buffer of vernal pools, which you just did on 110, which we had a big discussion about. And in this case, you have two houses that are within that 100-foot. There we were debating over paving a certain area where there's going to be no structure at all. Now you're talking about two structures within 100 foot of this thing. I just want to add that David mentioned that I heard wood frogs. What I have are recordings of wood frogs. I sent that recording to David, one of the recordings. I have heard them on two different occasions. We think that it's still probably a little bit early for the wood frog egg masses, at least we haven't seen them. And then the only other thing I was going to add is that the residents whose properties this is on are here tonight, and they can certainly already say whether they would give permission or not. So that shouldn't be a barrier. Certainly, I have gotten their permission. David has their permission. So they can speak to that, but those people are here tonight. I just want to say, again, that the water appears to be fairly close, and that there does definitely appear to be a need for that upland habitat for this pool. Thank you.
Thank you, Joel. We have another.
Are you at the public speaking point?
Yeah, sure. Well, why don't we shift to that for the moment, yeah, and focus it in the vernal pool.
Okay, I do have questions on the earlier things that have been discussed, if that's okay. Do you want me just to let you move on?
Let's
and
stay
I'll
with the
come
vernal
back?
pool for the moment.
Okay, okay. On the vernal pool, I just wanted to clarify that most of the vernal pools that have been certified in the town have been certified by Joel and me, and that I agree with him as far as the concern of that 100-foot buffer zone should be seen as a minimum area that those species need, as far as both wood frogs and as spotted salamanders. And I was reading to Joel earlier today the description of spotted salamander eggs, and he said yes, what he saw fits with what I was reading on that description. But if there's any question, the bylaws does have the provision, or the regulations, I'm sorry, that the commission can require that any determination be postponed until the appropriate time period consistent with getting evidence. So if you're needing to see the actual larva or whatever, or to have it, so you can have this hearing process. You can say that it needs to go on. And also another point is that there's a higher number of egg masses than there would be of larvae. So when you have just 3 egg masses, just finding 1 larva in that area is going to be enough to make it be certified. And then another question that hasn't come up that is related to the vernal pools that also goes back to the stormwater is if you look at the plans for the subcatches, in the existing conditions, he proposes 2 subcatch areas, 1S and 2S, and going to respectively discharging to 1R and 2R. But then in the proposed conditions, he's going to be changing that what goes to 1S, which is where the vernal pools are located, appears to get significantly less water. So the vernal pool is a resource area under the bylaw. You're supposed to be looking at, are there alterations to resource areas? If you are changing the hydrology, you are reducing water that's going to there. I think that would raise a real question of, are you altering the vernal pool habitat area, the vernal pool itself, based on the stormwater? And that stormwater needs to be looked at in terms of, you can't be changing the hydrology for areas where you have vernal pools. And the vernal pool does not have to be certified yet by Heritage to count under the bylaw. That's all called out. So I'll just leave it at that for now, and I'll have more in a bit.
Okay, thank you. And we have one more.
Paul Wood, 16 Helder Street. I'm just off-site there where the green line is. When they originally did that, they came in, never asked permission that I know of, but they're welcome to come on the property. For my part, I can't speak for Justin, that's up to him. But, part of it's both of our lands, but they went in, when they did it then, so, I don't know.
So I'm hearing you say
Yeah, I
it's
have verbal
okay for
permission
them
to get
to...
on 16 Helder Street, yeah. It's
Okay,
their property.
thank you very much, appreciate it. Okay.
I got a question,
Yeah,
and I'm gonna throw it out there. The catch basin at Plum Street has an outfall into this vernal pool. Is that what they're talking about? What's created this vernal pool?
It could be natural, could be just a natural.
But would the
depression.
catch basin that has an outfall into this vernal pool have something to do with all this?
Maybe.
well, it could, but there's, the presence of the egg masses makes that
What?
not matter, I guess.
Catch basin outfall, water creating vernal pool. It's created by the town of Chelmsford.
Yeah, so, what? I'm not following your point. I don't know
If it
what.
wasn't a catch basin, John, it could be sheeting doing the same thing. I don't know what you,
But I don't think it matters. The regs talk about a vernal pool
Right.
as evidenced by egg masses, not how the pool is
no,
created.
I was addressing his question about the catch basin.
Right,
It
right,
could be either
right.
fed either way, by just sheeting or by a,
Or groundwater.
Sheeting
Or
off,
groundwater.
right, I
Yeah.
understand that.
so
But
I don't,
I think the catch basin has a lot to do with it. We all looked at the catch
Yeah,
basin.
yeah, okay, and it
That was
doesn't.
my
it-
question.
It doesn't change if that's a vernal pool or not. Am I missing anything?
That's correct.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't change if it's a vernal pool. You look like you want to say,
I want to mention that Paul Wood, 16 Hill Street, the catch basin is useless. Most of the water misses that catch basin and comes into my yard. And then if you look, there's cuts into the road, and that's where it all flows down, because there's no curving there. It just passed by that. I wish it caught everything.
we all see that around town in many places, yeah.
But the important thing that I think I've learned, this question of the hydrology of the whole site not impacting the vernal pool. So the catch basin would be important to understand the hydrology, but so would the sheet flow and everything else.
Well, and Ruth is absolutely correct, that if the hydrology is being changed by the development, you know, the impervious surface or stormwater management, you know, that's something the commission can and should look at as well.
So I think we have a lot to think about here, more to dig in. What are the actions that we're looking at right now?
Well, I think right now to map the vernal pool itself and the existing tree line. I can look in a little bit more about potential impacts to the hydrology of the vernal pool. Again, I think that's definitely a peer review job if the commission wants to do that. So something I'll think about.
Okay, I think that's where we're at then. Anything else on vernal pool discussion? Okay. What else is on our list here? I think that was all.
Carl, I make a motion that we continue the hearing until our next meeting on April 9th.
Actually, hold on, I know that Ruth said
Oh,
she had
Ruth, yeah,
a
Ruth
couple
has
more
more questions.
things.
Yeah, sorry.
On
Sorry, Ruth.
Previous topics.
That's right.
Yes.
Sorry, Ruth.
Circle back, which topic are we on?
I will see. Okay, first, as far as all the turtle discussion, the vegetation removal, I just wanted to add on to that. This is something I had earlier noticed and sent to Heritage because I was concerned when you look at the town GIS, the aerial photos there, you can see a significant change from 2004 up through the most recent one. And the reason I'm picking 2004 is by 2004, we documented radio turtles on this site, wood turtles. And so there shouldn't have been changes being made in that time because anything should have been okayed by Heritage. As far as what type of vegetation to be returning to the area, I would encourage also, in addition to considering trees, shrubs and things like that because, yeah, we found a lot of turtles and shrubs and like silky dogwood. I don't know if the soils are wet enough for that. They like low bush blueberry, things like that, just to give a range of things. And the blueberry, as far as giving something food-wise for them as well. As far as the rail fence between the site and the other area, I would ask that, as was done on 93 Brick Kiln, has been proposed before with 243 River Neck, that you instead would have a fence that's a real barrier to turtle, especially if you have a successful nesting area. We demonstrated when we were doing our tracking that when hatchlings emerge from a nest, they are drawn, if they come out at night, they are drawn to light. And so that is why Heritage in that initial time required that fence with the turtle gates. It was and the lights had to be directed away from it going toward the habitat, was so that it wouldn't be drawing the hatchlings into that area. And so it was a chain link fence because people are disturbances as far as the turtles go. They're not wanting to hang out with them. But then the gate, so if a turtle ends up on the wrong side of the fence, it's a one-way passage to get back in there. So I would ask the commission to consider that, since you do also have rare species under your purview as well. And so that's why if you were to look at trees, I think you do need to go back to 2004 at least, and the town GIS does show that you can see that, yeah, there's been a significant change. And where you're talking that you're not really super dense, any change is going to have an impact. And then I'm trying to see here. On the stormwater, I did include several points in the letter I sent. I'll just include a few here. So I was glad to hear that they're being told to put the actual test pits in the area of their infiltration. Another point on their infiltration is the rate that they're using is incorrect, at least based on the material they provided. They are using a rate for sand when the soils, according to their map, are loamy sand, and so they need to reduce their rate to 2.41 inches per hour instead of what they were using. And they also need to ensure that they're system is sized such that it takes at least 6 hours to drain, not the 1.5 that they were showing. And then there were some confusing things on their O&M. They had a whole section on illicit discharge, and I wasn't quite sure why you're having residents that their vehicles are being checked. I didn't see where there's a dumpster on the plan, even though it talks about all this dumpster care. And was it spill kits and so I'm assuming something got cut and pasted incorrectly. I don't know if they'd take a look at that. But the frequency that they were reporting for the catch basin and their proprietary separator, they were saying in that it could be done twice a year, whereas in the stormwater handbook it should be 4 times a year. I think in the proprietary separator, I wrote down, I don't remember offhand, I think it was monthly they were saying in the handbook, but they're stressing that if the separator isn't checked often enough, it can actually introduce pollutants because they're not staying separated out, and that it's critical then for the infiltration area that it's adequately pre-treated. And I didn't find anything as far as time of construction care for the area of infiltration, that you're not compacting it, and I don't know if the same applies for the septic areas as well, but I didn't notice anything in the submittal addressing that, and I didn't finish going through, but that's what I have.
So Ruth, if I'm not mistaken, you submitted a letter.
Yes, I sent a
much of
letter
this.
just before coming.
Yeah, right. I haven't read it,
That's
but I know
fine.
that you sent it. So I will ask David if you can share it with Brian and David, so that
And
they
then
have
that
that.
addresses like the vernal pool issues.
And
things
I'd
like
just
that as
ask
well.
quickly, Brian, if you have any clarifying questions, not responses, but just clarifying questions to what she said. Okay. Then thank you very much.
I have a question of the percolation test on the septic systems. What was the,
They were using, so for the infiltration, if you look in volume 3 of the stormwater, they were using a Rawls rate. And so a Rawls rate for pure sand is, I forget, is it 8.27? And so that's the rate they were using, but from the soil map that they were showing, it's a loamy sand, not a pure sand. And so you need to use a lower rate, and that would, for a loamy sand, it corresponds to 2.41. So it's a much slower rate that they need to be using for their calculations for when they were sizing their system.
so the soils that are under the system, they're gonna leach too quickly? Is that what you're?
No, I'm saying that the number needs to be corrected.
Their
As far as, but, yeah.
calculations
Okay,
might be
all right.
wrong.
Yeah.
They got to double check.
And then I was just as far as, I mentioned the septic, as far as, should all those areas get protected from compaction during construction? There was nothing indicating that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Now, I think Chris.
Move to continue to our next meeting of April 9th, please.
Okay. Let me just double check, make sure, are there any other public, anybody else in the public that wants to say anything? Okay. Motion to move to April 9th, continue to move the hearing to April 9th.
Second.
Second, motion from Chris, second from Mark. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, none. It passes. Thank you. Thanks very much.
Thanks, everybody.
you.
Thanks for all the residents that came out tonight. Appreciate the interest and your inputs very much. Okay, let's rock and roll here. We've got 270 Billerica Road, and I'm pretty sure they've asked a request for continuance.
To April 9th.
So April 9th, okay, so
So move to April 9th.
by Chris to move that one till April 9th, second by
Second.
Peter.
Peter.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. That one's moved to April 9th. We have a NOI continued from October from the town of Chelmsford at 48 Central Square. This is the brick walk, and the applicant has requested a continuance until April 23rd. So I'll take a
Move to April
motion-
23rd.
Motion on that from Chris, second from
Peter.
Peter.
Any,
yeah.
any discussion, by the way?
Not for this.
Can I just,
You have something quick?
yeah, there was a meeting, a couple of us went with the DPW engineers to talk about the brook walk. I mean, details aren't too important, but, they're trying to move that thing on forward.
Things are happening, it's just they're not ready to come back. Okay, good. So motion to, from Chris, second from Peter, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, so that one's moved out to the 23rd. Last one on our regulatory list is 1-104 Turnpike Road for Town of Chelmsford. This is continued from a year ago.
Years ago.
Well, this says 3/1/23, that's 1 year.
Oh.
But it was opened well before that. So anyway, motion to continue that to the second meeting in May.
Whatever that is.
I move that we continue to our second meeting in May.
Motion from
Whatever that
Chris,
is.
second from Peter. All in favor?
Aye.
No problem with that one.
Vivian, you got that?
Thank you. Get the chuckle just right, capture the chuckle. Okay, continual business. All right, so update on 35 Brick Kiln. David, you told me that there's no update. I would like to give this some thought and figure out what we want to do on this, because this has gone too long, in my opinion. We've been very, very, very generous, and I'm not saying right now, but I think maybe at the next meeting we can
Yeah, I can
have a
certainly come up
plan,
with some options.
some options
It
and
might
some
be good to
plan.
loop the town council
Yeah.
in with,
Certainly an option.
Yeah, I
um,
think, why don't we ask that right off the bat, that you loop in town council to make some recommendations on what we can
Are
do.
the stumbling blocks still the same?
Yeah, it's just, including lack of response, but, yeah, it's just, we try to be generous and helpful, but, we need to do something here, so, thank you. Okay, so David has that action. Finally, update on land management. We have the Warren Pole Reservation, the CR. David and I are going to meet with the Land Trust on, I think, Thursday afternoon. Hopefully, we'll come to a final conclusion on that. I think we're just wordsmithing, if I'm not mistaken, so I think we'll be good there. We'll share that with you, hopefully at the next meeting, and get the approval on moving forward on that. The update on the Coolest property, I'll give that update because John wasn't at the meeting.
It wasn't a meeting.
It was last week. I jumped in for our friend John. I did not participate as a member. I was there as a concerned citizen, I guess. But essentially, there's clearly a very strong town vocal support of the new house site on the property. That's very clear that there was next to no reservation with that. But there was also an interest in trying to find a way to get Weston to have maybe the ability to have some of their work on that same property. I think it's going to be difficult on that side of the property. But there was, with one objection on the committee, there was everyone else was voting in favor of having the small 6-acre parcel hayed by the, I assume it would be by the Parleys. I was a little confused about why the Newfield, the wildlife refuge would have to be up for quote. Of course, I can't imagine there's any wildlife refuge else that would quote on it, but I don't think we had to quote on the Parleys, so I don't quite understand, but I'm not in the committee, so. But that's roughly how it's going. They're making progress. There are a lot of people there, very interested, a lot of interested parties. I was surprised at, I didn't know that there were interests from the Boy Scouts to have the ability to have events on the site with upwards of 500 people, which that's like, there's enough room there for parking for 500 people, but I don't know, I don't quite understand how that would work. I was a little surprised at that one, and also by the Cultural Commission, I think it's called, that wanted to have the ability to do like outdoor theater and outdoor concerts there, also with
A lot of public interest in this property.
So, there's a lot to look at there. I think there's still a few more meetings to go, but I'm so glad you're on the committee, John. So that's where we stand. Anything else in your agent's report,
Well,
David?
yes, but on Coolest, I think the house has been demoed.
The house is gone. It was done yesterday and maybe finished up today, but it did not take long. They were efficient. I talked to Christine about it, and she said it was quite something to watch the big piece of equipment make a mincemeat of that of that house in about an hour. It was gone in about an hour, and it was really something, so.
And was there enough debris to fill in the entire vernal pool, or did they have to bring some stuff?
I thought they did a good job
Yeah.
protecting it.
Yeah, I think they did. I think they
I
did.
think
Hopefully,
so.
we had a good compromise there. I'm hoping that the critters in there, although there's still, she was pretty good about saying, you know, about some of the more work, and maybe we need to slow it down, especially if we get into, you know, where they start, you know, migrating and moving around. So we need to keep an eye on that.
So the wetlands on that parcel have been delineated. The wetlands on the 6.5 acre parcel have been, and she was going to be doing the wetlands on the Hunt Road parcel as well.
Excellent.
All under the original proposal. Although Mike Raisbeck, who's filed an RDA to plant pumpkins and other field crops on that parcel, told me that he was just there yesterday and didn't see any flags, so.
Okay.
Actually doing it shortly.
Mike's becoming a turtle enthusiast as
He
well.
is, yes.
Yeah, so,
yes. There's
it'll be
no greater
interesting.
fan of turtles at
Yeah,
this point.
he's suddenly
Man, could be a future commissioner, you know.
He's got religion. He's
So-
busy with the planning board,
Oh,
so.
okay.
So that hearing will be on April 9th, so.
Okay.
We'll just see what he's willing to do.
All right, so,
Be in Turks and
anything else for agents report?
Yes, so I
Beats
got a
all
call
of
from
us.
an attorney representing the owner of 79 Ledge Road, who was alleging that there have been some big pieces of rock that the earth product removal companies up there have put in the wetlands, and he said that that the company's attorney is alleging to him, the homeowner's attorney, that DEP instructed them to do that.
DEP?
Yeah, which sounded very, very strange to me. So I went up today to take a look. He had sent me a photo, but I still couldn't see. I did see what looked like these big, rectangular shaped blocks, but I didn't see any in wetlands. I did see, however, though, that that Ledge Road is badly, in some areas, badly eroding and silting up some wetlands up there. So I think that that's something that the commission should have addressed.
How far down is 79?
It's the last house up. If you're going up Ledge, it's the last house.
On the
Before you
right
get-
or the left?
Before you
On the
go,
right?
before you go under the highway?
Yes, yes.
Oh, wow, okay, okay.
So I couldn't, I just couldn't see what he was alleging, but I am waiting for a call back. But as I say, I do think that there is, in any case, a serious concern with, siltation, erosion and siltation of wetlands. Up as you go up closer toward
Yeah,
where
okay.
Route 3 crosses.
Yeah, that's after where the fork is.
Right.
Yeah,
A
just
lot
before
of
Route
water comes down
Water.
the side of
From
that
the highway,
road,
yep,
Yes.
yep.
from all the way up the top,
Yes.
all the way down.
Yep, so.
There's big ruts there.
Yeah, so now it's actually good, now that I have the name of the company's attorney, I'll give him a call if that's,
So that is, it turns into Westford before it gets to the highway, and then it's Westford on the other side of the highway.
on the other side of the highway.
Yeah, that property is the last house in Chelmsford on that road.
And it
Well,
turns-
And it
And-
becomes
and it-
Westford even before it crosses the
before,
highway.
About 50 meters before it crosses Route 3.
So all that water is Westford water.
Well, and now I'm wondering if the wetlands are in Westford. See if, I'll see if I can.
Yeah,
make a-
could be.
And then if it turns out they're in Westward, I'll let the Westford agent know.
Yeah, talk to the Westford
Think they'll have
agent.
any problem finding riprap up there to put on the edge of the road?
Okay,
And then-
that's good to know. Thank you, David, for that update, or that information.
Then one other thing is, I got a call from Susan Canton, who's on the Chelmsford Gardening Committee, or Garden Club, maybe?
There's multiple garden clubs, but okay.
Okay, so they have, or I guess maybe the town has bought a memorial elm that she didn't know whether it was a Jefferson elm or a Valley Forge elm, but whatever it is, it sounds like it is resistant to the elm blight. And she was asking for suggestions as to where to plant it. Now, one consideration that has to be made, it has to be reasonably close to a water source, because it needs to be watered. I think, it sounds like maybe there might be a good place to Warren Pole, maybe near the stream, you know, where you take the trail, turns left, and then crosses Putnam Brook, maybe in that area.
Right, with
that's
the big
open.
ash tree that's
Yeah.
dead in that
Yeah.
neighborhood. No?
I mean, that's open, and it's close to the source of water there for the brook.
Yeah.
But if commission members could think of maybe any other suggestions, and let me know.
Any idea how big the tree is? Is it?
I didn't ask her. I didn't think to ask her.
Okay, all right.
But I'll do that.
Okay.
So if you could have any suggestions, any thoughts, let me know.
The other people to be asking would be the tree committee and see if they have ideas too.
The tree committee's planted a bunch of elms for the town, or with the
really?
town, rather, at the dog park, and
Oh, okay.
there must be one or two on the town common. I forget what we put there.
Okay, all right. Yeah.
Punt it if you want.
I'll give it some thought, yeah, okay.
So
We have,
can you look into that?
we have meeting minutes, so.
Consider it punted, right?
I'd like us to keep going here and finish up. We have meeting minutes from, let's see, we have January 9th, which I'm sure you've all read and made changes and corrections and all kinds of whatever, but I think they look pretty good.
There was actually one change that I had to January 9th.
Vivian, can you kindly tell us what little trap you put in these things to see if we actually read them, so I can go to that page and impress you that I read it all?
I used to write Mary Had a Little Lamb every so often.
Nobody reads it.
I haven't done that in years.
The only, well, I'll ask David when he's found his
Okay,
change.
no, it wasn't on the 9th, it was on the 23rd minutes.
So David, this isn't a minutes thing, but it's just a reminder, the St. John's Church on Middlesex Street, that they were going to ultimately do an NOI at some point for a long-term solution. You haven't heard anything from them, have you?
Well, the deadline was May 1st, so
Is it?
we've got
Okay,
a little
okay.
time, but I will get an update on
I'm
that.
just remembering being out there with, what was it?
Joe Hyder.
Joe Hyder, yes, okay. Okay, I'll
But
take a
thank you for
motion.
the reminder.
I'll take a motion.
I move to approve the minutes of January 9th, 2024.
Motion from Chris.
Second.
Second from Peter. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Minutes approved for January 9th. Thank you very much. Meeting minutes 24th. Let's take a quick look at that. Peter, John, David, did you have a change?
On the 23rd, yes.
23rd?
The request for determination of applicability,
Page?
that would be page 7. For St. John and Littleton Road. Where a motion by Mr. Garahan to motion to approve the request for determination of applicability for 0 Littleton Road with a -2 determination. That should be a -2 and a -3.
I'm sorry, this was on page, it's actually on page 8, is that right? For 0 Littleton Road, second line of the motion, you're saying that should be -3?
-2 and -3.
Oh, no.
It's both of those.
I thought I started, that's why I only put one. I'm like, you can't have more than one negative.
You can actually. We were out at the annual conference in last month at Holy Cross, and they covered that in detail, that you can have multiple choices, you know.
See, I learned something new every
Exactly.
year.
You learn something new every day, yeah.
All right, then if we can make that change and move to approve the minutes with that change, unless there's anything else.
I make a motion to approve it on January 23rd.
With the change that
Change for
David made.
As amended, so it becomes a double, it's a 2/3 determination. I'll second the motion.
Second from Chris. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. You're just a little slow.
I know.
All right. I will take a motion to close adjourn the meeting.
Carl, I'm sorry, there's one other thing I thought was on the agenda, this master plan thing.
Did I miss it?
60 seconds,
Did I
I
miss it?
promise.
How did I miss it?
60 seconds, not counting logistics time. Not counting the time to hand these out. Okay, we're not gonna talk about this, but I'm gonna email you guys. I'm on the Master Plan Implementation Committee, thank you, Carl, and I have to give a report on April 15th on what the commission is doing on our assignments
Thank you.
from the master plan. So this little chart is most of our assignments written into the master plan. And I need to come up with some sort of presentation to the master plan committee, which I have not thought too much about. So the takeaway here, if you want to talk about it, give me a call. And I'll present something at our next meeting, which will be a week before I have to present it to the master plan. And Carl, you can help me figure out how we want to do
I've
it.
done this drill once
Yeah.
before, so.
Yeah. And I will just say, I think the challenge here is a lot of these are really big things. And not clear to me that it's the Conservation Commission's role on some of them.
A lot of it's DPW,
Yeah.
a lot of it's, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, if you want to weigh in, give me a call. Thank you.
Just on the next meeting, though, just a heads up. I mean, we've got, in addition to these continuances, we got 4 new filings.
Ooh,
2 notices
Ouch.
of intent.
4 new filings.
Two
Well-
notices of
Well,
intent.
yeah, so we don't have to vote on this thing. I just show up at the meeting and speak on behalf of the commission. So I would like people's input. It doesn't have to be at the meeting,
Okay.
at the next hearing. It could be privately. If you care, call me.
So let me just ask,
How's that gonna work if I'm in Turks and Caicos?
You better have a drink in your hand and be on the beach. That's how it's
with
gonna
a
work.
Zoom call,
Zoom in with a drink in your hand.
No,
You're not
I
doing
can't even bring my phone.
yeah.
Looks like you're not going.
So
I'm sorry, I'm not gonna be at this most important.
April's a busy month, because obviously I was hoping we're gonna have a OSRP kickoff meeting, this town meeting at the end of the
A
month.
town meeting coming up.
I was just gonna suggest, maybe we do 3 meetings if we had to, but I'm gonna be meetinged out, so. But boy, if our next meeting is a long meeting, okay, well, we'll just have to
I feel real bad for you.
buck
guys.
up and get it done.
Yeah, buck
So,
up, yeah.
All right, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Meeting adjourned. All in favor?
Adjourned.
Aye. Thank you,
Aye.
Chelmsford Telemedia. Say goodnight, Dick.